Good morning. It's the Fit Lawyer ATL, and we are live. Happy Saturday. I hope you all are having an amazing Thanksgiving weekend. I've missed you all, but we live. And thank you for sticking around because, hold on. Uh, Y'all, I was up at 7 a.m. this morning in this studio getting ready for the show, and my audio just started working 10 minutes before we started. Like, literally, my purse and shoes are here because I was going to run to the office because I was like, this is going to be too good to cancel. Lord, please, what is going on? Please work. Please work. And I just hadn't cut my computer on since I don't know when. So it had all these updates to do. So thank you for giving me grace. I'm here and we're ready to turn up. Because y'all already know. Y'all already know it's about to be a good time. So I pray that everyone had an amazing Thanksgiving. Put a 1 in the chat if you had a great time on Thanksgiving Day. I know that it's not an amazing time for everyone. So I know I may get some 2s in the chat if you didn't, so we can show you some love and support. But if you had an amazing time on Thanksgiving, put a 1 in the chat. Oh my God, I had so much fun hanging out with my family. We actually, on my dad's side of the family. Oh, let me stop. I'm so excited to see y'all. I haven't even introduced myself. So my name is the Fit Lawyer ATL, a 20-year criminal defense attorney and personal injury attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia. I have my own firm called The Adams Firm. So if you get locked up or you get in a car accident, give us a call. We'll take care of you. But yes, I'm the Fit Lawyer ATL, and I'm here on YouTube just giving you some juicy tidbits and some facts. And we are here today to talk about Kandi and Todd. Like, this is about to be the bombshell. Well, it already is, right? It's already the bombshell divorce of 2025 going into 2026. We're all wondering whether or not it's going to get messy. I know they have a prenup, and that's why I have an expert here today to let us know whether or not this prenup is going to keep this classy, or is this about to get trashy? Okay. Because Mama Joyce told us day one. She told us from day one. She told us from day one. Didn't she? Like 11, 12, 14, 13 years ago when they first started dating, Mama Joyce told us. She said something. But, I didn't want to believe that, Mama Joyce was right, but Mama knows. That's what they say, right? They say Mama knows. So they say mother knows best. So we're going to see. We're going to see. So anyway, let's back to the Thanksgiving. All right. So if you all had a great Thanksgiving with your family, let's put a 1 in the chat. If you enjoyed all the food, if you ate good. I actually did really good this Thanksgiving. Y'all know I'm on my health journey. I'm trying to get sub 200. That's the next goal, right? I'm already lost 150 pounds. So I'm trying to get 50 more off. But first goal is to get sub 200. So I actually did not eat a lot. I had seconds, but not right after I ate my first plate. It was like a couple hours later, and it was only some dressing and turkey, and I couldn't even finish that. So I didn't take a to-go plate, and I didn't eat any dessert. It really wasn't purposeful to be like that. I just really couldn't eat all that food, and I was so happy when I got on the scale the next day because I only gained 1.5 pounds. And if y'all know, that's gonna be easy to get off. So I was really excited about that. And so I didn't get the itis, I didn't pass out. So it was a great Thanksgiving. So if you had a great Thanksgiving, I don't see any ones. Y'all didn't have great Thanksgivings. Moms are always right. Oh, Shadika's young, aren't they? And when you're younger, you really kind of hate that, right? Because we all had that little boyfriend that we like, a mama never liked from the beginning, and it always turns out not to be the guy, right, Mom? But I don't know now, because a little piece of me recognizes that Mama Joyce is a little jealous. Okay, Mama Joyce is spoiled. Okay, so Kandi is her only daughter. She is a very wealthy daughter, and she takes care of her. So I don't think Mama Joyce is gonna like anybody that comes into the picture that takes any of Kandi's time away. I don't know if y'all ever watched the show that they had with with Kandi. She got a lot of spinoffs when she was on Bravo. I mean, she's been like the most successful housewife in the whole franchise, but she had a lot of spinoffs when she was on the show. And so the family was all hanging out, and it was a time where the sisters were telling her just how Mama Joyce is, how she just wants all of Kandi's time. She wants Kandi. She just wants Kandi. Like, it's just, So I don't know if any man that comes along is going to be good enough. So I don't know if we really take Mama's Joyce's opinion, right? Is she right? I don't know. Like, is it just things happen in a marriage and they just fall apart? Yeah, Jersey girl Trey says Mama Joyce is jealous. She is. She shows it all the time that she is. She's jealous. If anybody takes Candy's time, Candy money, Mama Joyce be jealous. Oh, I don't know if mother knows best in this case, but it's working out, right? And then what's the Aunt Bertha said, this could all be a scheme set up by Todd, to come to us with the bullshit, right? So this could have been the plan all along, right? Maybe we're going to hear something about a 10-year thing and his prenup. And so what does that mean? Is it like the prenup void now? Does he get everything? Does he get half? It's Todd finna be like Offset. Is Todd about to be asking for half of Candy's fortune? I don't know. These men out here tripping these days. So we're going to get into all of that today. So let's see who we got in the chat. Good morning. Aretha Johnson 4548 says good morning. Jersey girl Trey says good morning, Fit family. Sharika Dorsey, hey friends, checking in. Good morning. Did y'all see the Georgia game yesterday? We actually attended the game yesterday. It was like 14 of us that went together. We had an amazing time, and Georgia won. They did beat Georgia Tech. That was an amazing game. I think it was like 16-9 was the final score. So Dogs, we got our bragging rights for another year, in-state rivals. So that was amazing. Kia, hey Kia, Elder 305 says hello to the beautiful, the Fit Lawyer ATL guest mods and chat. Happy Saturday. Yes, shout out to the mods in the chat. I know one of my mods jumped on my page like, are you coming back? What's going on? Because I need to know about my membership. I was like, I'm actually going live Saturday, so hang around. Hang around. And I'm working on some stuff so I can be more on YouTube. I actually placed the ad to hire an associate 2 weeks ago. So if you know anybody in the Atlanta area with about 5 years experience that wants to get in the criminal defense, I have an ad placed on my company website, theadamsfirm.com. It's also like on Indeed, LinkedIn. So I'm looking for an associate. So once I bring that person on full time, which I hope to do before the top of the year, that will free Fit up to be on YouTube even more. So yes, and I'm also working on little segments to come just to kind of be able to talk to you all about criminal cases. You can all ask me questions. I'll give free legal advice to you all. Now I'm not your lawyer, so let's take it back. I'm not going to give free legal advice, but you can ask questions of a 20-year criminal defense attorney, and I can answer those questions. And then you can do with the information what you please. All right. Shout out to my Fearless Query 21. Hey, happy Saturday. What time did this start? How late am I? You're not late at all. We're just getting into it. So we just started like 10:05 because I had some technical difficulties in the studio, but we are here. Shanikia Young says, I think this will get messy. LOL. I know it's giving that vibe, right? But I really think the messiness is coming from like the blogs and all these different sites talking like we being messy because we don't know what's going on. That we just making up shit, right? Like we don't know what's going on. People were like, oh, she filed on the 21st. I got 30 days to get out. Where we get that from? Where we get that from? Is that in the divorce paperwork? We're gonna talk about that today. Other things they're talking about this 10-year thing. Like, where is that coming from? Like, we are being messy. Kandi told y'all she fly above all the drama, right? So she like her T's or crossed, her I's are dotted. She is protected with her ironclad prenup. We the ones being messy. It's us. So I don't know if the divorce, this really could just be, it's an understanding of what you're going to leave with. Now, I was talking to a friend in the celebrity family attorney that we'll be bringing up. And I kind of just was like, made a comment. Like, I think no matter what happens in this situation, Todd's coming up. I mean, let's just face it, right? Because without marrying up, he would not have had the opportunities that he's had since being married to Kandi, right? Like it's not so much like, oh, she makes more than him, but it's just because of her wealth and status, he was able to take his creative ideas and have some backing, right? Because she was able to financially support those dreams and they were able to do a lot of stuff together. But he also brought things to the table. I was watching some videos in preparation, And it was Kandi was talking about how she couldn't have done the first play. I think it was A Mother's Love or something like that without him, because she has the creative ideas and the vision, but he has the line job. Like, that's his job. So he knew about casting, all of the production work, that's his. So she's like, I could not have done this without him. So if that has been the theme from day one, I mean, Todd maybe not, he ain't really a bad dude, right? I mean, I don't know what happened in the end. I've heard some drama, but I mean, it's not, he did bring something to this marriage, right? So it's not like he came in with the same amount of money, but he brought sweat equity, he brought his talent, he brought his skills, like it's projects that she could not have accomplished without him. And I think that may mean something. And we'll get into that with our celebrity family law attorney soon, and to see, does that matter, right? I mean, there's a prenup in place, right? But the prenup was done 11 years ago. So who knew how successful the marriage would be, or was it successful, right? I have a question about that too, because we're gonna get into this divorce paperwork, and it's a piece in there, and I'm like, you talk about the debt, but I don't hear nothing about the income. So I don't know, did they make money, right? So we do know that they had a lot of projects together, they had a lot of things successful, but they also had some businesses that failed, right? Blaze is now closed, I believe. I think one of the OLG restaurants is now closed. So when things close, there usually means that there was some financial loss in this closure. So has the losses that they've done together outnumbered the income they make? And now he walks away with, I don't know. I don't know. We're going to get into all of that. All right. So Cheryl Key says, Grand Rising, the Fit Lawyer ATL in chat. Fearless Queer 21, a woman would want half and would get it. Okay, good point. But let's think about this. And when we say that, we have to put man, woman in the same position as Kandi and Todd are. So if it is a woman that is participating, or as the men like to say, she's shooting with you in the gym, then yes, I think that, she should be entitled. But also a woman, most times in a relationship, and we're going to see this dynamic here, is the homemaker. They're taking care of the kids. They are taking care of the home so that the husband can go out and make all of this money, right? And so then she is we feel like she's entitled to something, because without her, he couldn't do that. But then when we got Daddy Daycare Todd over here, it's kind of putting in that same work, right? He got videos with the kids. He's taking them to school. He's dropping them off. Like, is Todd entitled to have? I don't know. Like, this is really, really going to be interesting. I really was rooting for them. I love me some Kandi. Like, anybody knows me, I love me some Kandi. She is a great businesswoman. It seems like everything she touches turns to gold. I've loved how she's been on The Housewives. She's been one of the most successful ones outside of, how her personality and all of that is. And we love her family, and she has the spinoffs, but she's taken opportunities to grow from The Housewives, right? She always had her businesses showcased. She always was working on the next play, the next restaurant, the next business. We saw her turn bedroom Kandi from nothing to what it is now. Just amazing. So like she said in one of Todd's videos, the bird's name, it carries something. So it means something. So we shall see. So without further ado, I am going to bring up celebrity family law attorney. Oh, I don't have my banner going. Let me get my banner going. Onyema Farrey. She has her own law firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. She has represented several celebrities. She's represented, can I talk about? Okay, well, y'all know she represents Simon. That divorce is still pending. So I don't know how much tea we'll be able to drag out of her about the Portia and Simon divorce. She also represents, I think I can say, Offset and Cardi. She's been involved in that divorce. She's represented some other celebrities in child support cases. So without further ado, and y'all seen her, we did a live before on Anthony Edwards when his trifling behind was just like, I'm going to write a check for 18 years and dip. We talked about that on the show. So without further ado, I am going to bring up Onyema Farrey, celebrity family law attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to the stage. Okay.
That was an amazing introduction. Thank you.
I know. And I was kind of like pulling back because I'm like, some celebrities I can mention, some I can't, so I don't want to slip up. So I'm like, let me just throw a couple there. I'm gonna let you
Thank
throw
you.
out some more that you can disclose, so they'll just know that this the real deal. This the real deal.
Yeah, you mentioned them in the description. It was
Oh,
great. The
yes,
description you have for the
yeah,
live, it was perfect. So
yes.
thank
All right.
you. I'm so
So
glad to be here. Thank
yes,
you
thank
for
you.
inviting me back. I know the last time that I came, it was like 7 months ago. I was starting to look at my phone like, okay, all right, Fit, are you gonna call me back or no?
Okay, girl, because for some of the topics you can't talk about when we want to talk about them, right? Because if you have a client that's in the middle of some hot stuff, you can't really disclose because of
That's
the
true.
client privilege. So, I try to, respect those boundaries.
And I appreciate it. And it's so true because every time there's a big break or news that happens in the celebrity world, people always send me clips, they tag me, and I want to talk about it, but I'm like, that's my client. So I
Right,
don't
right.
talk about it. I don't post everything that comes out in the blogs because, I'm just reading and working the cases. So I can't talk about it. So you're
Yeah.
right. You're absolutely right. But I am excited to be here to talk about prenups because that is my forte. And I will tell you, so just to further elaborate for your viewers and listeners, I've been practicing for 15 years. And early on in my practice, I developed a niche for doing divorce, custody, child support. For the past several years, people have now known me as being the attorney that helps fathers get custody. I represent moms and dads, but I really do my thing for dads because I always felt like dads were underserved in the courtrooms and I really wanted to be their voice. So I've been going hard for dads when it comes to custody. But nonetheless, lately, I will say maybe the past 2 years, for some reason, I've been doing a lot of prenups. A lot of prenups. It wasn't something early on in my practice that I saw as often. But nowadays, I think I do at least one prenup a month almost.
Oh,
So I'm excited to talk about it. And let me tell you, I have drawn up ironclad prenups and defended them, and I have ripped them apart. So I can
oh.
talk to you all day long about prenups. So I'm excited to be here and ready to get into it.
Yes, I love that ripping apart because I wonder if the trend toward prenup is people getting married later in life. Do you think that is the why you're seeing more? Because I know I'm single, but I do hope to remarry one day, and I will be having a prenup. And it's not because I'm sitting over here on $1 million and I want to. It's just that as as I'm older, I realize that you don't divorce who you marry. I did family law for 10 years a long time ago, and I left it alone. It's too emotional, too much drama. I just
Mhm.
it's not my forte. But I used to always say, you want to get to know somebody, divorce them. Like that's when you see the true colors, right? So you never know how a marriage ends, why it ends. So in my older age, I think a prenup is important because we get to divide things in love. So we get to, as
Right.
we're in the love stage, we get to say, I love you. I want to always make sure you're taken care of. I want to make sure the kids are taken care of. Whatever mine is yours is mine. We're in
Mhm.
this kind of stage. So let's go ahead and put it in paper. So it's not so much about saying, oh, like a prenup means we're going to end. You're looking like this is not going to last. No, it's just saying that if it doesn't last, I want us to divide things in love versus whatever. I think that's why
Right.
people maybe seeing more.
That, and I think just education. People are more educated now, especially with social media. We have easy access to things online. People are taking their affairs more seriously. So they're hiring lawyers, they're hiring legal professionals, estate planners to help them plan their life, plan their marriage. And then it's just a different day and age. Back then, years ago, when our parents and grandparents and great grandparents were getting married, they didn't divorce. So there was no need for a prenup because they were locked in, until death did them apart. So nowadays, though, especially with divorce rates being well over 50%, and people knowing someone who went through a divorce or even their parents may have gone through a divorce, I think they're just educating themselves and being more proactive, which is a great thing. And yes, I agree. Certainly prenups are there to go ahead and divide things while you're in love, you're happy, you respect one another, you want to make sure things are done fairly. But at the end of the day, I mean, like they say, I agree, marriage is a business. I agree that marriage is a business. And I say that because when it comes to joining two people, whether it's early in life or later in life, you are joining two families, two lives. You're joining bank accounts, financial affairs, children, you know, extended family. Like you're all coming together for one union to, you know, create life, build generational wealth. So it's a business at the end of the day. So when
Yeah.
you're going through a divorce, one of the things that you do want to think about also is, or when you're getting married, one of the things you want to think about is, you know, in the event of a divorce, how much money are you going to spend from everything you've saved on a divorce? And one of the things that a prenup does is it helps you save legal fees.
Mm.
So up front, it's like, why not go ahead and pay a lawyer up front to decide everything in the divorce? So that way it saves you hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. That's really important as well.
Unless you want to fight your prenup because you were a little too in love and gave away everything.
Allegedly.
That sound like one of your
Allegedly.
Does that sound like anybody you know?
Well, look, let me tell you, is, you know, and we're gonna get into this, but one of the
Yeah.
things that you do have a right to when you want to challenge a prenup is determine whether or not the terms are fair. Like Kandi and Todd, they got married back in 2014. Here we are 11 years later. Things have changed, you know, for them. They've amassed a huge estate, all this wealth. You know, they have businesses they've joined together and created. I mean, they have all of these ventures that they have. She's won awards. He's supported her. Now they have two children. So the question is the prenup still fair? Is it still fair? You know, back then when they were hoping and praying and wishing that things would turn out well, here we are, fast forward 11 years later. Is it really fair now? And that's one of the things that you can challenge a prenup on. You can decide that, look, it's been 11 years, or, you know, in my previous client's case, it's only been, you know, a year and a month. Is it really fair to
Right.
carry out the terms of this prenup when in fact these are the circumstances now? And so we'll get into that and I'll talk more about that later. But, you know, if he wants to challenge the prenup, he has a right to it.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you
Mhm.
go. There you go. All right. So without further ado, what we're going to get into first is the paperwork. Okay. So that's what we got to start with, facts. We don't have to guess. We don't have to do this. We're going to look at the divorce petition. And when I did family law, and as attorney Farrey will tell you, when she does it, like these petitions for divorce are pretty simple. Not many times is someone going to put all the dirt into their petition for divorce. You'll see that occasionally, I guess, if it's like a highly contentious divorce, right? But would you agree? Like most times, these divorce petitions are going to pretty much look like the one we look when we go through this. You're going to be like, "Oh, that's it," and
Right.
we want to kind of keep the business quiet as long as we can. Would you agree?
Yes, and I absolutely agree. And a lot of it is strategic as well. So in Georgia, so for those of you that may or may not know, Kandi and Todd's divorce is filed in Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia. Oftentimes, you know, attorneys are strategic with what they include in the divorce petition. You don't want to say everything because you want to maintain some leverage, right? You want to be able to change your mind, or you know, maneuver this way, or you may ask for the moon and the stars when really you're wanting to land, you know, somewhere under that. And so you don't put every single thing in a divorce. Georgia is a notice pleading state. That just means you say enough of what you want to put the other side on notice of what your claims and allegations are. But as far as including all of the juicy details and facts, even if it was in a divorce petition, none of it is considered evidence. So even if the judge read it, the judge cannot consider it as evidence until such time is presented at court.
Okay. Yes. So some people are recognizing your name in the chat, and I got Kia Elder 305 asked the question earlier. Do you represent Kandi? And I can no, she does not. We're going to see the
No.
attorney's name at the end. She should be representing her. She should be.
Well, thank you. It's
Yes,
not too
yes,
late.
yes.
Look, it's not too late.
It's definitely not too late,
No.
and things could change. So let's put that in the atmosphere. But she definitely should be. I definitely was surprised. And a lot of times when I see divorces, especially with people involved in Atlanta, if it's something on Instagram or TikTok, I'll shoot her inbox and like, is this you? Is this you? Like, is this you? Can you please tell Offset to go ahead and sign that paperwork, please? Like, is this you?
People do that a lot. They do. They always inbox me and tag
She
me
is
and
like
say,
the go-to person for celebrities, so we know to check with her first. Usually representing one side or the other, so we don't know who Todd's attorney is, right? He hasn't filed an answer.
no,
So
he hasn't filed an answer. They have not filed an entry, so we don't know who his attorney is yet.
yeah, so he could still be looking, and he could hear about the best. And just know if she lands on Todd's side, it going down. It's going down. Okay, let me stop here. All right. So let's pull up this petition so we can get into it, because it has. I want to talk about it as we go through, so people just can see.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Well, that is not the petition. Hold on, y'all. You know, it's been a minute, so we struggle streaming. Let me pull it over.
And while you're pulling that up, one thing I will say is I thought it was very interesting that the petition was filed as a contested divorce. And what I mean by that, because some people are like, oh, what does contested versus uncontested means? Well, uncontested means that they have worked out all the terms of the divorce. They've agreed on everything. They've drawn up the settlement documents. They've signed the paperwork, and all the judge needs to do is sign off on it. Well, this is not the case in their divorce. Kandi filed it on her own. It was not filed as an uncontested divorce petition. In fact, and once we go through it, you'll see some of the language. In fact, she's still stating that she has to get him served. So this is a contested divorce, you know, whether it's contested regarding the prenup, whether it's contested regarding the children. At the end of the day, there is no full settlement agreement on the books. So this is contested, folks. So it very well could get messy or it could be something that is settled. But the fact that she filed it this way and there's no settlement, it speaks volume.
You all heard it here first. Now, this could have been done differently, but this is giving signals that this is about to get messy. So they fighting over something, right? This means it's contested, means they're arguing over something. They're in disagreement about one of the main terms of a divorce settlement. So there is a settlement agreement document that has to be filed with the court. So there are major points that have to be covered and resolved between the party, right? You can't just say, I want to get divorced. I ain't gonna worry about the house. I don't care nothing about all that. I'm just gonna walk out. No, you have to settle things. You have to divide your property. You have to settle debts, right? You have to decide if there's going to be custody, visitation of the kids, what the child support amount will be. You have to make those, all those have to be decided either by yourself in agreement or by the judge if you go to trial, or through a mediation process at some point during the divorce proceedings, but they have to be decided. So the fact that she stated that Kandi has filed this like this is giving we're arguing over something. And
absolutely.
So what are we arguing about? That's going to be interesting. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to pull this up a different way because I can't figure out how to share my screen. Like, Lord, this is it's been a minute. Why can I not just share this? Okay. Yeah, I think this. Okay, there we go. All right. Petition for divorce. Okay, so what I wanted to bring attention to right off was who is Kayla Niece Tucker and T. Jermaine Tucker. Like, why does she file? Why does this not say Kandi Burris Tucker and Todd Tucker? Why are the names listed this way?
You know, so it's not uncommon in high profile celebrity cases for them wanting to file anonymously, you know, or them wanting to file in a way that it gives them a level of confidentiality. The fact that she filed on Friday and then went online and announced to the world that she filed on Friday made me curious as to why they filed the way that they filed. Because obviously she wanted the world to know, and she told the world. So, you know, if you say, hey, I filed for divorce on Friday, obviously everyone's going to go check the court dockets to look for the divorce. So in general, I do understand why a lot of celebrities file that way. I've done it that way numerous occasions as well. It's because, you know, when you're going through a divorce or a custody situation, it's such a personal and sensitive and emotional time. And you want to be able to go through it have some sort of privacy before the whole world, gets involved, because sometimes things get very contentious as well when you have the whole world and social media, being your divorce attorneys and telling you what you need to do and don't do. And then you feel the need to go online and defend yourself. So, I can understand them wanting to file privately, but again, because Kandi announced it herself, she should have just put it in her name. The world is on notice that you filed for divorce. So, but that's why I'm sure they just wanted some sort of anonymity.
Yeah, great point. I get the anonymity, but then you announced it. So, because I wouldn't have known Kayla Niece Tucker was Kandi. Like, if I saw that come across the clerk's desk or come through the filings, that wouldn't have triggered to me like, oh my God, Kandi just filed for divorce. So I get it. It would have been a way to keep it secret, but she went straight out and announced it. So it was kind of confusing because I know you worked on, I believe you represent Apollo back in the day when he got divorced. And I think Phaedra, when she filed it, she just made up some names, right? It wasn't even a
right. So I did not start off as Apollo's attorney. He had a different lawyer. And then I remember, I think it was on the show Housewives, or maybe it was just online, I can't recall, but she had announced that they were divorced. And so then, when he came across my desk, he's like, wait, I'm divorced. I had no idea, like, what is going on? And so I did come on board. I took over representation and started representing Apollo, and we blew up the spot. And when I say we blew up the spot, we did have to do some digging. Even as a skilled and trained lawyer, I had to search high and low for his divorce because, there was I think the last name was misspelled, and then there was an initials. It was a lot of things that were done there to keep it concealed from the public, but we were able to locate it. We got it vacated, thrown out, or set aside, and he got a redo. He got a redo. We were able to then redo the divorce the correct way, and we ultimately ended up settling. But yeah, that does happen quite a bit. So.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
That was very interesting because it was filed in different name and completed before he even found out about it. So that was shady Faye. you know what they say. So also too, another known divorce that occurred recently was Tiana Taylor and Iman Shumpert. And I know that Tiana and you didn't represent either party there, but you do know the attorneys in that case. And Tiana filed in initials only. And like, I can't remember the exact dates, but I know it was say January. And it wasn't until all the way in October when Iman filed a motion to blow up the initial and open and disclose who the parties were that the world then knew about the divorce. But for 9 months, we had no clue because it was simply filed an initial. So a lot of celebrities do this so that they can, so people aren't talking about it because we've been talking about this divorce since the minute it came through the clerk's office.
Last Friday. Right. Right. I can't throw it out doing it.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So all right, let's bring the petition back up. So sorry, we have super chat. Okay, shout out in Allen 007 says sends a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Thank you. She says, do you think Kandi and Todd will end up going to trial? How often does that happen? That's a good question.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Especially, so I don't know any of them, right? I don't know Kandi. I don't know Todd. All I know is what I see on my TV screen and what I see on social media. Right. And just based on the person that Kandi seems that she seems very reasonable. She seems level-headed. She seems fair. She's an open book. So I believe that ultimately they will settle. Now, will they go back and forth to court for motions hearings if they have certain requests that they want the judge to handle in the interim while their divorce is pending? Yes, absolutely. In fact, they have a court date coming up, I think on January 12th. Yes, January 12th is their first court date. So will they be back and forth in court? Yes, to resolve certain issues along the way. But will it end up in trial? I just don't think so. Oftentimes these matters do not go to trial. How often does it happen? I don't know. I will say in Simon's case, we went to trial. So we did go to trial and we're still handling some post-trial matters. But most of the times cases settle on the courthouse steps, meaning that you're gearing up for trial, you're ready and you're prepared, but maybe the day before or even the day of, oftentimes the case ends up settling.
Yeah. And a lot of times with these family cases, I mean, well, no, every time you are kind of forced, would you say, to go to mediation to try to resolve prior to you get to the trial step. So a lot of times in mediation, people can resolve things that way as well. But even with a trial, so she's asking about trial, but it won't be a trial like the YSL trial, right? Like, do you have a jury trial in family law cases, or is it just the judge, or can it be like, how would trial even work?
Oh, that is a great question. So in divorces, you can have a jury trial if you're fighting about dividing up assets and if it's dealing with alimony and property. So you can have a jury of your peers sit and decide who gets what and whether someone gets alimony. Yes. So when it comes to the money and the property, you can have a jury trial. But when it comes to custody and child support, things dealing with the children, that's something that the judge decides, because the judge is the only person who can determine what is in the children's best interest. But also, if you have a prenup, the prenup puts parameters around those things. So you may have a prenuptial agreement that says, look, in the event of a divorce, we're not going to trial. We're going to resolve things by arbitration, or we're going to resolve things by the judge deciding and not having a jury trial. Because remember, the point of a prenup is to save you money in the event you have a divorce.
Right.
And so the way to save money is to not have a trial and to either settle at mediation or have an arbitrator, meaning you're not going down to the courthouse in front of a judge. You're actually going in front of somebody who is trained as an arbitrator to decide the case, almost like a referee. And that person will determine what happens in your divorce. And then you save a lot of money going through that arbitration process. So so a trial is it can be a jury trial or it can be a bench trial. Bench trial meaning the judge decides.
So so if it is a trial, say we're fighting, they messy, it's everything, we got to decide everything by a trial. Will it be two separate trials? So it'll be the custody issue only will go before the judge, and then everything else can go before the jury?
So it depends on if the prenup is enforced, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
we know they have a prenup. If the prenup is enforced, and that's one of the things that usually happens early on in the case. Again, their case, Kandi filed her divorce as a contested divorce. So there has been no indication, at least as of the time of this live, there's been no indication that Todd is in agreement that the prenup is enforceable. But Kandi is saying, look, judge, this prenup is enforceable. And so I anticipate that if early on Todd comes onto the case and his lawyers decide, we're not going to agree to have the prenup enforced, what will happen is, or what should happen is, Kandi's lawyer should file a motion or a request with the court to say, look, judge, let's go ahead and determine whether this prenup is enforced sooner rather than later, because we don't want to get into this back and forth, accrue all these legal fees, work up this case like we're going to trial on everything if you enforce it. Because if the court enforces it, then the issue of assets are off the table, debt is off the table. More than likely, the issue of property is off the table, and businesses and alimony. Those are the things that a jury would decide in the divorce. So if the prenup is enforced early on, there's nothing left for the jury to decide. So it won't go to a jury. The remaining issues that cannot be in a prenup are the issues dealing with children.
All
so
right,
in Georgia, just, public policy, and it makes sense. Like, you don't want to, even though they are the parents, and it makes sense that, oh, well, the parents are deciding what they want to have happen with the children. At the end of the day, the judge has oversight, and the judge gets to determine what's in their best interest. So back then in 2014, 2013, whenever they signed the prenup, they didn't have those children. And so the court can't determine, or even they can't determine, what will happen or what the circumstances would be at the time that they divorce. So fast forward, it's like public policy says you can't determine or predetermine what's going to happen with the child when you don't even know what the circumstances will be. Like, what if the other parent is homeless or broke down and out or is on drugs really bad? But then you pre-contracted that parent's going to have custody, so it makes sense that you can't pre-negotiate and pre-contract what will happen with the children. So they will certainly have to deal with figuring out what happens with the children, especially when it comes to not just custody, but
Right.
child support. And I'm going to talk about child support in a minute when we get to that section in the documents.
Okay. Wow. All right. N Allen 007. Thank you so much. I figured that was you because I recognized the picture. So that's pills, potions, poison. So thank you so much for your $20 super chat. And she says, Bertha said Todd set the whole thing up. So he might not be so easygoing. LOL. And that's right. Because if I don't know if you all have been seeing the clips, and I have some queued up to play where, Todd had a YouTube channel, right? So he's done this whole Todd with the Glam Squad, where he'll be with Kandi getting dressed, that kind of thing, right? And they're just talking. And a lot of things that he's been saying, it was kind of really passive aggressive, right? He would give hypotheticals like, what if the man doesn't make as much as the woman? But it was always related to their situation. But he would always speak like he wasn't necessarily talking about their situation, just kind of like talking. And Kandi would always be in the background, like, I believe a man needs to stand on his own if the divorce happens. Like, it was a weird dynamic. And these videos are like from 2 years ago. So who knows kind of what was going on throughout the marriage. Was very interesting. And like you pointed out, filed in a contested fashion. So, and we're going to show you how long this has been going on. And Kandi alluded to it in her Amazon interview when she was selling her product that, this has been going on for a while and things ain't good. So we may, this could have been filed because we are not working things out. So I'm tired of talking to you about it. So we're going to go to court and we're just going to figure it out.
That's what I think. That's what I think. And the reason I think that is because in the divorce paperwork, she indicated that they have been living in a bona fide state of separation since July 15, 2025. Okay.
I hear that, right?
Since July 2025, they've been living in a bona fide state of separation. And what that means is that under Georgia law, that means you are no longer holding yourself out as husband and wife. You are no longer moving as husband and wife, and you are no longer being sexually intimate. And you're no longer telling the world that we're married. Now, you can still be in the same house. You could even still be technically in the same living space and bedroom area, but so it's like a mental state. So long as in your mind you're no longer as husband and wife and you're no longer intimate, then that's enough to say that you've been in a state of separation. So the fact that it's been 4 months since they've been separated before she filed, that also tells me that this is contested. There are some issues that still need to be resolved. And really, I was thinking that the reason some of the businesses were either closing or, dissolving was in anticipation of the divorce. Those are my thoughts. She said in her live that it's been, I don't know the words, maybe bad for a while, or, she mentioned that she's been putting on a smile for the world. And most of the times when people file a divorce, it's not something that they do overnight. It's usually something that's been brewing for some time. And I believe it was brewing before July. She said it's been going on for a while. So when I was seeing, looking back, seeing that those businesses were closing and, some people were saying it was money issue. Yeah, I mean, every business goes through the ups and downs when it comes to debts and money and lawsuits. That's just the nature of doing business. I think some of that could have been related to the divorce. Like, look, this is one less thing we have to figure out. Let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to get a divorce soon anyway. So it's easier to dissolve these businesses now. So when we get a divorce, there's not much that we have to figure out.
Oh, that's a good point. Because we were looking at that. That is a great point, y'all. Great point. And we were looking at that because we were trying to see what was still open. And they did consolidate to one OLG is open. Blaze is closed. And this, yes, because when things would come up in news about Blaze, it's like it was $100,000 old. Like, clearly Kandi has that in the bank. She could have wrote a check, paid that off open, but it's like it's a business situation. So she's very business minded. So, and very strategic. And Allen 007 pointed out that she thinks Todd has been as well, but they both are. And that this is a Taurus and a Leo. Okay, as a fellow Leo, okay, and I got my mama, my brother, sister-in-law Taurus. Bulls, this is, they're just something is a line drawn in the sand. All right, so let's go back to this paperwork. Let me pull the paperwork up. Okay, there we go. All right, so we show how she filed it in, their her middle name, and she didn't even put Burris in here, which we know her last name is hyphenated, but again, to keep it anonymous. But someone said that she was trying to beat TMZ to it, so that's why she came out and said, who knows? I have no clue. So it says, comes now the petitioner, Kayla Niece Tucker, and files her petition for divorce against respondent T. Jermaine Tucker. And Jermaine, like, I don't know. When I saw Jermaine, it just made me feel like
it made you chuckle a little bit.
Yeah, like just like a little shade of Jermaine. T. Jermaine Tucker. And Todd, let me tell you something. He don't want to go to trial. Look, Kandi is Atlanta. Okay. So I don't know a jury in Fulton County that's gonna give Todd all Kandi money. So I don't think that's gonna happen. So Todd, they better resolve this in mediation.
Or their money. Look, I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Okay. Let me get corrected by the family law attorney. Yes, 11 years of their money
and it's
30 years
natural.
of her money.
Right, because it's their money. Everyone's saying hers, but the money that they amassed together after 2014 is their money. And that's just the law in Georgia. After you say I do, anything after you say I do belongs to the both of you. Now, and that's the default. Now, the prenup, the purpose of the prenup is to carve around that default and to say, okay, after we say I do, here's what's going to belong to you and here's what's going to belong to me in the event of a divorce. So yes, so most prenups, this is what most prenups say. So again, I don't know either of them. I'm not representing either of them. I have not seen their prenup. I highly doubt the public sees their prenup because I'm sure it contains a lot of personal financial information if it was done correctly. So with the prenup, it carves around that default of what we make together belongs to both of us. In the prenup, you can say anything we start together that has both of our names on it. Like if we purchase a house, if we purchase a vehicle, if we start any businesses with both of our names on it, then in the event of a divorce, then we'll both split it 50-50. Or it's not uncommon for one spouse to say, you know what, I'm bringing in majority of the income, so we'll split it 70-30, or we'll split it 60-40 or 80-20. But anything that I've had from before, if it continues to grow, it's all mine. I'm sure that's what her prenup says, because for it to say otherwise is pointless. So I'm sure her prenuptial agreement probably says anything she had before him, any businesses, any royalties, any properties, even if it grows and increases, or even if you help me with that business venture, Todd, even if you contribute to it, even if you support me, everything you do is just a gift. It's still mine. That's what most prenups say. And his will probably say the same thing. Like anything he came to the marriage with, if he had any properties, I don't know if he had any homes in New York, if he had any cars, any assets, any accounts, anything that grew that was in his name that he had beforehand, he may say, look, it's all mine. But if we have something together that we venture towards, then here's how we're going to split it up. But even then, when you have a prenup that says, here's how we're going to split it up, you still have to figure it out. You still have to, draw the line and figure out how to split up those businesses. So even though people think that prenups make things clean cut, sometimes it's not always clean cut, especially if everything is not spelled out to a T in a prenup.
And see, this just lets me know why Oprah never got married. I'm not doing all of that. Let's just stay right here. I'm gonna take care of you. We're gonna be good, but we're not gonna, because I don't have to do all of that, right? Because it's no common law marriage, right? So we don't get married, we don't mix all that together, and we don't have to do all of that. That's a lot. That can be a lot, right?
It is.
Like you said. So you had a song that came out prior to meeting me, and I help you go on tour, I help you blow, do this. I don't get any of that. But if it's in a prenup, that's messed up, right? If I'm keeping the kids while you going on this escape tour, y'all done blown up again out the blue, I think that might be reasons I might want to challenge the prenup, right? Like, it's not fair. Like, I didn't know you were going to do all of that, revamp your career, become this, and all that you did when I agreed to this prenup. I thought you were kind of like at the end and we were going to be supporting me and pushing me up. I didn't realize, you were going to rebrand and blow up even more. So that could be a reason they could go back and challenge, right?
It could. One of the things that, so there's really three main grounds that the Georgia Supreme Court indicates are reasons for challenging a prenup. One of those is whether there's been fraud in executing a prenup, like somebody lied, he wasn't who he said he was, she wasn't who she said she was, whether there's duress, like someone felt pressure to sign the prenuptial agreement and they didn't have a lawyer, they just got the prenup only a couple of days before the marriage. It had all these terms that they didn't understand. They were just under that duress and forced to sign. If there was some sort of misrepresentation or somebody didn't disclose all the assets, all of that serves as one grounds or basis to challenge a prenup. The second basis or grounds where you can challenge a prenup is if the prenup was unfair at the time that it was drawn up. So let's say if someone, one of the parties has $5 million worth of assets and several businesses, several homes, cars, and the other party is, maybe a 9-to-5 worker. Maybe they make, $15 an hour, they make a modest living. And the prenup says, in the event of a divorce, you get zero. I keep all the assets. You get no alimony, you get no attorney's fees. I essentially take everything. That could be considered, unfair at the time or unconscionable at the time that they executed it. And then the third basis is exactly what you were saying. You can argue that the prenup is unfair and unreasonable today, because back then, I didn't realize we were going to amass all of this. I didn't realize you were going to skyrocket and get all of these awards. I think, like, I know she's on her track to get the EGOT, like I know Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. I think that's what it stands for. And so, I think she's accomplished all of those, but one maybe, or I'm not sure. But, maybe he'll say, I didn't realize we were going to be this big hit on Broadway. I didn't realize that, we were going to have these 2 children. And this is the life we would have had. He could make some of those arguments and say, well, back then, 11 years ago, it was fair. But now we need to dust off this prenup and revisit it. And no, I don't think the terms are fair anymore. But here's the issue and the challenge that he's going to have with saying that he didn't foresee these circumstances. It'll be different if when he married Kandi, she was just an everyday person. It would be different if she was just your everyday person who just loved to sing, loved to act. And then during the marriage, she blew up. That's not who he married. He married her when she was on a hit television series. He married her knowing that she was a Grammy winner, knowing that she was an artist, an actress. Like she's a celebrity. He married her in that celebrity status, and she's been that for years since she was a teenager. So it is foreseeable that in the future, her fame and her wealth will continue to grow. So if he's wanting to have that argument as a basis to challenge the prenup, he's going to have a hard time. You're going to have to really prove that the Kandi Burruss was not going to be this, even bigger personality and bigger entertainer and celebrity now because you married her that way. Yeah. So I don't know that that's going to be a valid argument for him. He's going to have to dig a little deeper and try a little harder to challenge the prenup if that's what he wants to challenge.
Okay. Wow. So in Allen 007 sends a $10 super chat. Thank you, sis. She says, on the show, it seemed as if the prenup wasn't signed until the 9th hour. Does that give him an advantage? And so I was watching these clips recently. And so, because they had a whole wedding special. So
right.
It was signed into the 9th hour because they kept going back and forth on 2 points, right? It was the 30 days to get out. And I can't remember, I don't know if they were disclosing what the second point was, but it was 2 things that he wanted changed in it. And you're right, it wasn't signed into the day of. However, and I'll let you answer if that matters, but in their case, he did have his own attorney and they started on it well in advance of the marriage. I mean, Kandi is on an interview I just watched today where they were dating. I don't even think they were engaged yet, and she was talking about a prenup. Like, it wasn't a secret that you were getting a prenup marrying her. So, wow. So does that matter that it was signed literally hours before the wedding?
No, not under those facts. It does not. It'll be different if that was the first time he saw it and he had to scramble. But
Mm-hmm.
and we all know TV only gives us a little snippet,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of fast forwards things. So if those are the facts as you've described it, where he's had an attorney, they both had lawyers, and they were
Mm-hmm.
negotiating it for some time, like maybe several weeks or even months, that's going to be hard for him to make the argument that it was signed under duress. And if I recall correctly, I know it's been over 10 years, but if I recall, I believe they video recorded him signing it. Did they
Yeah.
not?
Yes, she
Okay.
did. She got video
I think
evidence
they
of him
video.
signing it, saying he was okay with it. All of the
Mhm.
conversation about him having an attorney, like Todd may be strategic, but so is Kandi. And so
Right.
everything was documented that, bruh, you know what's in here. You had your own time. It wasn't last minute. It wasn't thrown on you. So I don't
And that
think
was
that's the
smart.
argument he has. Yep.
That
Fair.
was smart because it also
Mhm.
shows, I mean, you can see if it ever became an issue, it could be
Mhm.
shown to the judge and you can see real time what his emotional state was like,
Yeah.
what his mental state was like, what his
Mhm.
body language was like. You can hear his words and understand, okay, well, no, you were of sound mind and body. You knew what you were signing. You did not appear to be physically or emotionally in distress. And
Mhm.
so, no, I just don't think under those circumstances he could argue that he was under duress either.
Hey, Operation Sexy Body in the chat. Shout out to the amazing life coach. Okay, so y'all see this glow up? She's a part of it. All right. Uh, Shanikia's young. I'm sorry, it's like a glare. I love Kandi. Yes, as a tourist, I like to document everything as well. Yeah, Kandi did not play.
Mhm.
So that him signing now, was he happy to sign it? No. Did he ever sound excited about it? Absolutely not. But he wanted to marry her, and that was a boundary she set. And so she wasn't getting married without it. And on the show that I was watching, they even asked her, like, are you open to elope? And she said that was a rumor. Like, I mean, I'm not opposed to it. She said, but that
Mhm.
prenup ain't signed yet. So we not about to do nothing to the prenup.
Mhm.
So she talked about that prenup for months. So
Right.
she's covered there. So he won't have that argument. All right.
And
So
one thing I want to point out too, because some
mhm,
people, a lot of people assume that the prenup means you get nothing. The prenup doesn't always mean you don't get anything. The prenup spells out how much you will get,
yes.
in the event of a divorce. And that includes, alimony, that includes attorney's fees, that
Mhm,
includes any division of property and assets. So, even though there's this stigma around prenups that, ooh, they didn't want to sign because they're going to get nothing. No, he's probably going to walk away with some pretty lucrative assets, especially the assets that they got together, both their names, any ventures that they did. So I'm sure he's not walking away with anything. And again, Kandi doesn't strike me as that person um, who would not make sure that their spouse is good. She strikes me as somebody who's caring, who's going to make sure that, their spouse is good, because at the end of the day, that's the father of her children. That's the man she loves, the man she married, the man that she's fought, everybody with, including
be with.
Mama Joyce. That's the man she fought everybody
Mhm,
for years. So
mhm,
I'm sure at the time, like you mentioned, when they drew up this prenup in love, even though there is some static and there's some back and forth, which is common. It's
mhm.
common for people because it's hard to think about what will happen in the event of a divorce. So it is common for people to get upset and be emotional at the time that they're negotiating a prenup. But I'm sure that Todd will walk away okay. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah, I was watching in Allen 007 says she's not going to leave him dusty. And she said she's not gonna leave him dusty. But she definitely said, I'm gonna get you a house, but it's not gonna be like my house because you can't afford to take care of my house, right? You can't
Mhm.
afford there's no point in me buying you $1 million home when you don't earn enough money to care for one. So she said, I'm not gonna put you in the hood because you have my babies, but you'll be somewhere, a couple $100,000 house, in a nice
Is that
subdivision.
what she said on the what was it, Todd and the Glam Squad? Is
Yeah,
that
on Todd and the
okay?
Glam Squad. That's what she was
I
saying
remember
on
that.
that's what she was saying on one of the interviews. She was like, one of those shows. And it was like from a couple years ago, but that's her belief system. So I believe that was her belief system when she did the prenup. So I'm pretty sure she put stuff in there because, like she said, she was saying that Todd didn't want the house because they are in a house that she had prior to the marriage. But she said, he doesn't even want this house. So I know she will provide for him to be able to get another home. And I don't know if that's already occurred or not, right? Because like you said, she has to get him served with this divorce because there
Right.
was a way to avoid that. There's what's called an acknowledgement of service. So when people are cordial, things are working out, a lot of times, even if you have to file to work out something in court, the other party can simply receive the documents. Their attorney can receive it or themselves. They can sign an acknowledgement. You can file that with the paperwork and then they don't have to be served. Because I mean, serving someone means you're sending the sheriff out to serve them, or you're sending a private process server out, and it'll be a thing where a man will walk up on Todd and say his name, and then he turn around and hand him an envelope. Like that's what's going to happen because there was no acknowledgement of service file. So that means he has to be served. So yes.
Yeah. And most of the times, that's why I said I was the fact that it was filed the way that it was filed is very telling, because most of the times in these high asset, high profile celebrity cases, the lawyers talk, they reach out to each other. They say, okay, look, we're going to file for a divorce. We want to give you an opportunity to accept service. So here you go. Here's the documents. Are you going to accept service or not? And it could still be a conversation that's had. Maybe that conversation is happening now. But the fact that, in the documentation, it mentioned that personal service may be effectuated upon the respondent at his current residence. That tells me that there may have not been a conversation had about him accepting service. So, now he probably will, obviously, because, the world knows and he's on notice, obviously, about the divorce filing. But usually that's something that's filed at the same time or shortly thereafter the divorce filing.
Yeah. If the parties are on the same page with things,
If
right?
they're on the same page, if
Mhm.
they're in
Mhm.
agreement that this divorce needs to be happening right now.
Yeah. So thank you. A loving cat 17 sent me a $20 cash app. Thank you so much for your support. I just saw one of your comments and pulled it up. So thank you so much for being here and supporting the live. I really, really appreciate that. She says, wow, she fought Mama Joyce about him and look what has happened. So Mama Joyce was right all along. I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know about that, right? It could just be that's how things are playing out. We don't really know the insides of their relationship. This doesn't tell us that this is all Todd. It takes two, right? So we know Kandi's an open book. So just wait patiently. She will tell us everything. She can't
Right.
help it, like myself. We will tell you. You don't have to guess for too long. Just give me patience, and I'm going to tell you everything. So she's going to tell her side. I want to know Todd's side, right? I really want to know what the dynamic was, what got us here. I know what I have heard allegedly was the straw that broke the camel back. There are blogs out. There are people talking about having seen footage. Allegedly, there was some security footage out. Allegedly, he might have bought somebody into a restaurant, might have been an affair, some cheating or something like that, might have led to the final. I don't know. But whatever it was, I do want to hear the intimate details of their relationship in the sense of like the balance, right? Because I'm in Atlanta. I have my own practice, successful business. I've had my own business now for 11 years. You have your own business. You're married. We are in groups and circles of a lot of Black women who have their own business, doctors, lawyers, all of that. And a lot of us are single. And I wonder what that dynamic will be because we always get told like, oh, you think you're going to become running things because you got all this money. And it's like, no, a lot of us don't think like that. Like I do want to submit and I do want my husband, no matter how much he makes, to be the head of my household. And I want him or I want them to, to lead me in this relationship. Right. So I want to submit to my partner. So I do want that and don't want that vision. But a lot of people say like, Kandi was kind of, this mine, right? There were some videos from the YouTube where Todd would say things like, when a woman always says it's mine, this is mine, because they were in her house. This is my house, you get tired of hearing that, or like I came in here with this money, or I paid for that, or it's my money that started that. Was that going on in their relationship? Is that what kind of led him to cheat if he did, if that's what happened? Was that the dynamic, or was it, I just want to know, like, being someone who is successful and may not meet a partner that makes as much as I do. I just kind of really know what that dynamic is, because a lot of people are just like, oh, is Mama Joyce was right all along? Was this Kandi, right? Was she unbearable? Was she hard to be with? It could be that. I don't know.
Well, so one of the things that was included in the paperwork in the petition for divorce, she mentioned, so in Georgia, you have to tell the court why you're divorcing. You have to state a basis. And so, and I think it was on page 3, paragraph 9 of her divorce petition, she mentioned the grounds or the basis for her divorce. She said that the marriage is irretrievably broken. In other states, they call it irreconcilable differences. Now, this is a no fault grounds, meaning that she doesn't have to prove who was wrong in the marriage. She doesn't have to, make any claims to wrongdoing at all. It just means that there's no hope of us getting back together. So that is her basis. Now, Georgia has 13 different bases, one of them being adultery. She could have said in the paperwork, look, I am getting this divorce based on adultery, which is cheating on the spouse. She could have said it, but she did not. She probably didn't say it because she wants to keep it clean and not messy and put their business out there if it is the case. But also, when it comes to alleging adultery, you have to prove to the court the cheating. Like, you can't just make that allegation. If you're saying that the cheating is the basis for us getting a divorce, you have to go to court and prove it with evidence. 95% of the people, probably even higher than that, cannot prove the actual cheating, because you have to prove sexual intercourse in Georgia, and you have to prove that that cheating is what led to the demise of the marriage. If somebody cheated 2 years ago and you remained in the marriage, even though you may have been upset and distraught and things just weren't the same since then, if you forgave them and you moved on, you can't later now say the cheating or the adultery from 2 years ago is what now caused me to file this divorce. That's going to be very difficult to prove. So she did not allege cheating as a basis. So I know everybody's, rumors are swirling, and that's, the salacious, juicy stuff to put out there, but she did not allege that. She said the marriage is irretrievably broken. So what I do want to point out, though, is there's been questions about, if he cheated, or does cheating affect the prenup? People ask that all the time.
Yeah.
The question, or the answer to that, is it depends. Most of the times, especially if there's no cheating clause in a prenup, most of the times cheating or adultery, it doesn't affect the prenup at all. It does not matter, because you've already agreed on how things will pan out regarding the assets and alimony and personal property. You've already agreed to all of those things, regardless of whether one spouse or the other cheated. So it doesn't matter. But sometimes people do include cheating provisions in their prenups. They may say, look, I agree that we'll split everything equally that we may have acquired together in both of our names. But if your cheating is the reason for us getting the divorce, either way, if cheating is the reason that we're getting a divorce, then I don't want to split it 50-50. I want to split it 80-20. Or I don't want to split it at all. I want to be the one to keep it, because maybe having that provision in there will encourage people to stay faithful in their relationship. I don't know. But if people have a cheating provision in there, then, maybe it will affect the prenup. It just depends. But she didn't allege it. She didn't state it as a basis. So, if I were to guess, and this was just, again, I don't know Kandi, I don't know Todd, I'm not either of their lawyers. If I were to guess, it would be purely on statistics. I would guess that it does probably have to do with finances or family dynamics. I'm ruling out family dynamic. And what I mean by family dynamics is, it's hard. If your family doesn't get along, your family doesn't like you, it's very difficult to maintain a lifelong marriage in that situation, right? I'm ruling that out because we've seen the family dynamics for the past 11 years. And I think that's why everyone was so shocked, and they've been rooting for them, because they, to us, everybody
Mhm.
from the outside looking in, it looks like they've overcome so many obstacles together, and they've defeated the odds, and they've overcome the family issues and the complicated family dynamics with her marrying him. So in my mind, I'm ruling that out.
Mhm.
I believe it could be finances and not seeing things eye to eye, because statistically, that is, I believe it's the number one thing behind number one, and then other things like family, religion, and then cheating is last. Not last, but it's further down. People think cheating is number one. No, that's further down the ranks when it comes to the reason that people are divorces. Even in my own practice, most of the times it's the finances. People don't see eye to eye on how to pay for things, on how to divide things, on what to invest, on how to spend things. People have separate bank accounts. People don't share money. They don't want to share money, or they only want to share a little bit, or they feel one spouse may begin to feel more financial pressure because they're carrying the load of the marriage. And then they start to resent the other person, or they may feel like, well, since I'm making all the money, I need to make the decision. So if we don't see eye to eye, then what I think should happen goes. So I really think maybe that could have been it. Again, that's just my educated guess based on my experience as a divorce attorney. I don't think, even if there is cheating involved, I don't know that that was the straw that
Final.
broke the camel's back. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially since she said out of her own mouth, this has been brewing for some time.
Yeah, and like you brought up a good point about the finances. Maybe I'm tired of investing in this stuff you come up with, and because she made a
Mhm.
comment once before about she felt like he didn't finish things, that he starts all these different projects and he has like 10 things going at once versus focusing all his energy. And if I'm a successful businesswoman and I do this, and you're over here doing 10 things that are, maybe I'm frustrated now. So maybe I'm resentful now. I saw, I think a guy post about Kandi always mentioning her money, and it's disgusting. It can be, right? So if I gotta always hear about what you make, what you own, I don't know that. I was always told, like, when you all get married, you should purchase your own home together. Nobody should feel like they're coming into the other person's space, because in a heated argument one day, you may say, this my shit. Like, it may just slip up, and then it creates this dynamic. So
Mhm.
maybe that just finally wore down. Or as Kia Elder 305 says, do y'all think that threesomes will end a marriage? I don't think that threesomes necessarily will end of marriage, but I definitely believe when you open your bedroom up, your marriage up to outside, it can just get messy. It can just lead to things. And I know there's rumors. I
Yeah,
don't know,
I
right?
mean, I don't know necessarily, because there are some people
Oh,
who
that's
have
true.
successful marriages
Yeah.
where there are third parties involved,
Mm, yeah.
and that's just the lifestyle that they live. That's what they enjoy. There
Mhm.
are, relationships that we all know that are categorized as that. Some people live
Yeah.
in a polyamorous
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Some
I have a
people
client
have.
that actually has
Mhm.
2 wives and 7 kids, and they all
Yeah.
live together,
Mhm.
in the house. Yeah.
Some people have multiple wives,
Mhm.
I think I saw recently, a wife had 2 husbands. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." You don't see that. You don't
Yeah,
see that often. So,
you
I don't
don't.
know that it would necessarily end a marriage. Could it cause some issues or cause some strain? Sure. But
Mhm.
will it end a marriage? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the dynamic. I look at, yes, if you're in a poly marriage where this is how we're going into it, I think I look more, it comes a problem where we're married, this is our thing, and occasionally we branch off and do this. I think that opens the door sometimes for people to get on separate pages with things. T.I. Tiny, maybe you might want to start dipping and dabbling without me, got some issues. I don't know. I just think it does creates opportunity for issues to come up in a marriage. But then, like you said, we pointed out situations where it definitely can work. My client, they're living together, they don't have any problems. We see it a lot of
Mhm.
times in the African culture and Muslim culture. Sometimes they can have multiple wives. So it works for some people. So
Right.
when I think of threesomes in a marriage, I'm thinking like this is a regular marriage, and just occasionally we dibble dabble in those situations. I think it's a greater chance of things happening and occurring that can break it up. So we got 178 people in the chat. Oh, I'm so excited. All right, make sure y'all hit the like button. I don't know if my likes matching. Is the math mathing? So make sure y'all are hitting the like button as you come in as well. In Allen 007 says cheating really doesn't weigh as heavily during divorce unless it includes abuse of some sort, children, and finances. Yeah, so a lot
That
of
is true.
say, you know, if I ever get cheated on and then it happens and you don't, you end up working it out, understanding, talking through it. And then some people you have, it's that straw. It's the, oh no, like I'm done. This is the final straw. Or maybe it's the final straw because I have been dealing with some other stuff I didn't really like. And now you got the nerve to go do this too. So now I'm out. Like we just never know. And I believe Kandi, like she said, she'll share in time. She is an open book. We'll get details. We just have to wait there. So we're just talking about factually what we can read in these documents. So
yeah. And I'm sorry, one more point. I wanted to follow up with what I think N. Allen 007 was saying. Yes, that is very true. From a legal standpoint, when it comes to appearing before a judge, a lot of people think that the cheating is going to be the smoking gun in court. And it's not. It's not, because the way that the court sees it, well, you're getting a divorce for a reason. So most of the times, when people come before the court, there usually is some sort of cheating involved at some point, most of the time. So does cheating really have a bearing on custody? No, it does not. And I will say, y'all don't come for me in the comments. I don't come for me in the comments, but I will say I have gotten cheating spouses full custody of their children. I've gotten even just recently a cheating husband, full custody of his daughter. And it wasn't because he was a bad father at all. He may have been a bad husband, and there may have been cheating involved, but it doesn't take away the fact that the court is still going to look at which parent is more suited to care for the children. So like in Allen 007 was saying, unless the cheating deals with abuse of the children, like maybe if you're going to go see your sneaky link and you're leaving the kids in the car in the parking lot of the hotel where you're doing your thing, that's an issue. Or if you are cheating with someone who abuses drugs or is abusive, and then you're leaving your kids in their care, that's an issue. Or if the cheating is abusing the finances, like you're flying your paramour out and spending tons of money on your paramour when that money should have been going to the marital household, it should have been supporting your children, it should have been going to your spouse, and you basically drained all of the savings or the financial assets on this fund you've been having for years, then yes, that's when the cheating does become relevant, because it has affected the marital estate, the finances, and the children. But other than that, it usually means this much when it comes to a divorce. So oftentimes when my clients want to highlight the cheating, I tell them, let's look at the picture as a whole and let's figure out where we need to focus, because you don't want the court to feel like you're this angry, bitter spouse. And then because of that, it's going to trickle down to the kids, and you won't be able to effectively co-parent with the children because you're so angry and bitter that he cheated. Because that's a quick way to lose custody as well.
Yeah. And that's what people don't understand. Like divorce, custody, child support cases, they're chess games. It's all about being strategic. It's from the minute you file to the minute it's over, you're playing the game.
Absolutely.
You're going to get a great attorney that's going to instruct you through this game, and you're going to listen and play it, or you're going to lose. So that's a great point, because a lot of people do feel vindictive, like he cheated. I remember when I was doing family law, I had a judge tell a client, because sometimes clients are just hard-headed and they still want to come into court and argue about this point regardless. They still get on the stand and want to derail what you practice and mention and focus on something. And I had a judge actually say from the bench, you all are getting divorced, let's move on. I don't want to hear about the past. Obviously, things were horrible. He was a horrible husband. Things didn't work out. That's why you're here. So let's move forward. Sometimes judges don't even want to hear about the past. They just want to know, how are we going to divide custody? How are we going to do child support? They just want to move on. That is even a greater reason why you should resolve your problems yourself. You all should work things out in mediation, because these judges don't want to hear it. They're over it. They hear these cases all the time. You're going to bring somebody a case for 6 hours to make a decision that's going to affect your family and kids for the rest of their lives. Sometimes they make the wrong decision, even though they try to make the best one. So a lot of times it's better if you all can work this out, which is another reason we're so surprised to see this filed this way, because it doesn't give any appearance of we're working things out or we're on the same page. So let's it's not a long document. We'll go back. All right. So we left off here. She just says, I'm a resident of Fulton County and have been for at least 6 months. That 6 months established residency. So you have to live in the county for at least 6 months before you can file for divorce in that county. So let's say they stayed in Clayton County and Kandi moved out the house and went to Fulton, but I had only been there 2 months. She needs to file the divorce in Clayton. Is that correct?
In Fulton.
And
Right.
oh,
What
if
are
she,
you
I
saying?
was saying that they both stayed in Clayton, but then Kandi
Oh,
moved out to Fulton, but was only in Fulton for 2 months. She would go back and file in Clayton, right?
so yes, when you're filing a divorce, you have to file in a
Mhm.
county where the other person has been a resident. So,
Mhm.
if for some reason he had moved out and moved to like Clayton County or something like that, like you mentioned, the person
Mhm.
who's filing first would file in the other person's county.
Yes.
So,
And now, is there any strategic reason or benefits to filing first? Like outside, I mean, you have to pay the fee if you file, the
let me
other
tell
person
you,
doesn't.
absolutely. So I am huge on strategy. In fact, I like to pride myself on winning my cases based on strategy. Like I think every single move needs to be strategic because it sets you up for the kill at the end. People think that you win the case at trial. No, you win the case at the very beginning. I think it's more strategic to file first for a number of reasons. One, in Georgia, when you, or really any state, when you file first, you are the first person to speak in court and you get the last word. So you speak first and you speak last. That is very powerful when you're presenting your case, because when you file first and you tell your story, your side of the case first, you present your witnesses first, you present your evidence first, you get to tell the judge how you felt and everything about the marriage first. And then he gets to present his side. But by the time he presents his side, I mean, just human nature, you may have already in your mind formulated an opinion and a decision, and you may be worn down by the time he presents his case. And then even after he presents his case, you get to have the last word. So you get to have that closing argument where you speak first and you speak last, and he can't respond to anything that you say. So that is very, very powerful from a trial attorney's perspective. Um, the other thing is, in most counties in Georgia, being the petitioner, you're the one that gets to schedule, you're the one that pushes the case along. You get to schedule the hearing and determine when your case is going to be heard. You're the one that files the motions. You're the one that makes the decisions first before the court. That's a very powerful and strategic move as well. Then you have your reasoning for divorce. Most people say, if you believe that the other person was at fault, then file first. Because it's like, okay, because it's been plenty of times I've cross-examined people on the witness stand, and I'm like, oh, so he was abusive, and he hit you, he abused you, he was mentally and emotionally draining, he was horrible with the children, he cheated on you. Then why haven't you filed in the 5 years that he's been doing this? Like it really taps into the credibility. Like, okay, it is what you're saying really the truth if you're not the one who filed? So I think when you're the one who files first, it just gives some credibility to your story and your side of things. If you're so unhappy, then file. Don't let money be an excuse. So I think there's some value there in filing first as well. Some people don't like to file first when, let's say, they don't earn as much money as the other person. And they may say, you know what, I want to go for alimony. I may want to, ask the other side to pay my lawyer's fees. So let me just sit back and I'm going to let them file. So then when they file, I can say, oh my gosh, Judge, they just, this big bad wolf filed against me, and I don't have the money, I don't have the resources. It's almost like, I don't want to say playing victim, but it's almost like, help me out, judge. They're attacking me, and I need the money, I need the alimony. So sometimes they just sit back and wait and say, you know what, I'm gonna let them file first. And then once they file, I'm gonna ask the court to make them pay all of my legal fees and pay me alimony. So that way, I can be good. So it really depends. But every time someone calls me and say, hey, should I file first? I will tell them yes every single time. It's probably rare that I would say no. I can't even think of a time that I would say no. If I say no, it may be strategic. I may say, you know what, wait until he gets this big bonus, or no, wait until you come back from your 3-month trip, or, something like that. But other than that, I think it's strategic to file first.
Yeah. Oh, y'all heard it here first. File first. So this is the setup. So this will be going to court. You mentioned they have a court date coming up in January. Look, I'm following this case from beginning to end. Okay. So we're going to be nosy. It's right down the street in Fulton County. So we'll be in the courtroom for things that we can be, because some of the divorce hearings, like the 30 days, 60 day, 90 day status conferences, those will not be public hearings, right? They'll be something that happens in the back. It's like
it's going to happen. Yes, but now since COVID is by Zoom, so it's not going to, I mean, technically it's open to the public because it's a public proceeding, but the way that the courts do it in Fulton County, their status conferences are all via Zoom video conference. And most judges only take one case at a time, so it'll only be just Todd and Kandi on the screen with their lawyers and the judge. And then the next case, it will be the same way. And then the next case. Sometimes the judge will open it up to everyone that's waiting for the status conference, because they're not the only ones that day.
Right.
But most of the times now, it's just them. So we won't have access to it unless somebody has the Zoom link and just logs in, and the court lets you in. But for the most part, it's going to be private, so to speak, because it'll only be by Zoom.
And that's normal, because pre-COVID, these hearings were in person. We would go down to Fulton County. It'll be, like she said, a lot of people on the calendar, a JO, which is a judicial officer, which is not the judge of that courtroom, but their person under them will then call the parties to the back. We'll go into the jury room, that's where we are. And we sit around this conference table across from each other, and we'll just discuss the issues. Like at a 30 days, we're just trying to see, is everybody served? Is everybody served? What's going on? Maybe they can set dates, scheduling order or something with the case. And then we come back in a 60-day, what's going on, discovery is changing. It's just kind of I love it in Fulton because it helps track and push the case along. So you're not filing, waiting on the court date, and just hoping the parties are working the case in between court. No, you're actually coming in monthly to make sure that things are being pushed along. So those are never public. So don't feel like, oh, they hiding something. No, you're never in those conferences. However, if they have hearings that are actually arguing in court. So if let's say Todd files his answer and wants to challenge the prenup, that will be an actual hearing when that comes, correct? That the public can go.
Yes.
We're going to be in there.
If he wants to challenge the prenup, then he will either file a request to set aside the agreement, or Kandi will file a actual request to enforce it. Now, she put it in her petition that she wants the prenup enforced. So if he's on board, then they don't have to go through that whole song and dance of filing an extra motion to request it. But if he, in his answer and counterclaim, he says, I don't agree that it's enforceable, then we know what time it is. It's game on, and she would need to file an actual motion to enforce the prenup, and then he can respond or file a request to set it aside. And then he would have to explain to the court why he wants the prenuptial agreement set aside.
So we are waiting for Todd's answer. That is going to tell us a lot of what's going to happen next in this case, right? So when well, first he has to be served with it, because I was going to say he has 30 days to respond December 21st, but no, technically his time doesn't even start running until he gets served with the document.
He has to be served with it. So he has to either sign a acknowledgement or form that says, I have accepted or received the petition. And then from the date that he files that, then he has, some time from then to go ahead and like 30 days from then to file an answer. Or if she sends the sheriffs knocking on the door to serve him with the papers, or if she sends a private process server, like you mentioned earlier, which is a plainclothes individual that just shows up and puts it in his hands, from the time that he is served, he has 30 days from then to respond to the petition, to say what he wants to have happen.
And we'll know when he gets served, because once he's served, whatever process it is, whether he does the acknowledgement, it has to be filed with the clerk's office. If he is served by a process server, they'll do an affidavit that has to be filed. And then if the sheriff does it, they'll file it. And typically you're supposed to file that within 5 days of the services. Nothing happens if you don't, but that's kind of what lets the courts know you've been served and the clock starts. So we'll keep a watch on that. Once it's filed, I'll be like, hey, y'all, the affidavit, Todd's been served.
We will know everything, because it's going to
it's public record. Public record.
We're going to know when he is served, how he is served. We're going to know when his answer is due. He's going to have to file the answer timely, and we're going to know exactly what he wants. So in about 30 to 45 days, and my guess would be certainly before the January 12th court date, we will know exactly his position and where he stands.
Yes. And we'll know in his response and his answer whether or not he is going to say, I agree, let's accept the prenup, or he's going to say, I want to challenge it. And that's going to be the day we know how messy things are.
I'm reading the chat. I'm sorry. Somebody said, y'all are wild. Somebody said all she has to do is give it to Mama Joyce. She'll serve him. And I'm laughing because I think I remember on one of the episodes, Mama Joyce was like in this trench coat and these shades walking down the hall to the lawyer's office.
Girl, Mama Joyce said she gonna be on his ass. What she said, it ain't no valley low enough. No, some high number keep me off your ass.
Oh, this just makes me so sad. I'll just say, they really gave us some great moments together. And, I know they were going through some things, family-wise and all of that, but I think the reason why we all love them so much together is because we all can relate in some form or fashion at some point when it comes to their marriage, their family dynamics, the children. I mean, they just look great together. They look like they have fun together. They laugh together. We love the fact that Kandi is such an open book, like you don't have to guess when it comes to her. We love seeing Todd with the children, and we love, seeing him love on her. So, I mean, I know there's some humor in this, because sometimes you just got to laugh to keep from crying. But my goodness, it just really breaks my heart. When I heard the news too, I think I was like most of America. I was like, what?
I didn't believe it until TMZ said. I said, I ain't believing it. And I said,
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it either at first, because I think it was rumors before, like 2 or 3 weeks prior to then. They were like, oh, they're headed towards divorce. And I was like,
yeah, I know she was like, she dropped her name off the Instagram. She took her down off her social media, went back to Burris. She been in the gym, and y'all know how we be when we get in the gym, we get the glow up. It was different. It was a different vibe. Yeah, but I didn't believe it. I didn't until I saw TMZ, and then I was like, oh, it's factual.
It's so sad. It's so unfortunate. Like divorce is just, it's not always something that you hope for in a relationship, because you want to. I like to believe that people go into marriages hoping and wishing that it's going to be forever, and for a lifetime. And I'm sure that's what they were thinking. And I'm sure that's why that played into why, Todd may have been a little upset at the beginning when it came to a prenup, because I remember him voicing that, look, I'm not in it for the money. I love you. Like, why does this feel like a business transaction? I love you. I see us being together forever, so he felt some type of way, and people do, they feel some type of way, but then he had to come around and, understand that marriage is a business and you just have to be smart. But anyway, it just breaks my heart. I hate that they're going through this, and their wedding was absolutely beautiful.
It was everything about it. I love all their spinoffs, the entire family, the gelling, the blended family, all of that. We have loved. They've opened it up and shared. So I was devastated to hear it too. Didn't believe it, didn't want to believe it, but we're here. In Allen
Right.
007 sends another super chat. Thank you so much, sis. She sends a $10 super chat and says, "This is great information. Thank you so much. I'm so glad
Thank
that I could
you.
get her here." I hit her up top of this week, was like, "Come on, we got to talk about Kandi and Todd. You ready? You ready? You ready?" Because while I did family law like 10 years ago, I have not been in that game in a long time. And this is our expert. This is my expert right here. Okay. So if I got a family law question that transcends into my criminal stuff, because sometimes some of my clients have TPOs or they have something and I'm trying to work around. I'm like, okay, I got 2 wives. This one locked up. She gonna get out. What do we do? I call her. I reach out to her and get advice on that. So expert here. So I'm glad you all are enjoying this. I saw your fit photographer says when your mother-in-law is involved and your marriage game was over before it started. And sometimes, I mean, that's the case, right? We get these outside parties coming in. The marriage is supposed to be husband and wife. Even the Bible even tells us, right? Tells the man to turn away and cleave to your wife. Like that's supposed to be the unit. So it was heartbreaking to see Mama Joyce be all up in it and still in it, right? Because they were on something recently, like maybe the last year or something, and Mama Joyce was still in the mix. And you would think she would get past things, and it was like she get past it, they get good, but she would still come back to it, blaming them for sleeping with Carmen. Remember that on their ski trip? I mean, it was just like,
Oh,
I can imagine the drama he's gone through, and to be with her in this relationship, like he can write a
That's
book.
why we all thought they were locked in, you know?
Yes, I
It's like,
did.
man, y'all have overcome so
So
much,
much.
but, you just never know what people are, going through, truly going through, and
Yeah.
that's what she said. She said, "I come on here on social media and on
Mhm.
y'all's TV screens and online, and I put
Mhm.
on this front and I smile and, but really things are not
I'm going
good."
through.
That's what
Yeah,
she said.
I'm going through it. So, so talk about the service. Okay, so they were married April 2014. They separated, as we stated, on or about July 15, 2025. And when I saw that, that was like a part that stuck out to me because a lot of people were saying, were remembering from the show when they did the prenup, and it was saying you have to be out in 30 days. And so, if that
That was
in
what
fact
it said that's what they said on the show?
in his prenup, that was one of
That's
the
what she
2
wanted?
issues that Todd wanted to discuss prior to signing it. Those are 2
Okay.
things he had an issue with. I saw an interview where Kandi was on with I think it was on a house with Andy Cohen, and she was saying she got that 30-day ideal from like another housewife in their prenup because they had what happens sometime, and y'all see it with Drew and Ralph. Like they're divorced, they're getting divorced and they cannot stand each other, but they are forced to live in the same house because they didn't have a prenup that had this clause. And until the divorce is final, or until a judge orders Ralph out or her out, or the property to be sold, whatever, he gets to stay there. So Kandi was like, I need this clause in here so that if we call it quits, I need you to just get out my face. Like, just get out my face, move on, go ahead and go somewhere. So then, and we can work out everything else while we're separated. But I don't want to look at you if I'm divorcing you. And so that's where that 30 days came from. And on the show, it showed Todd coming into the room saying he wanted to talk about it. So we don't know if it ended up in it or not. But let's say it's in the prenup and he had to be out in 30 days. When does the clock start? Would that have started at the time that she filed? Would that have started?
So
She said they've been separated since July 15th. So the day she says, comes in the room and say, I'm done with you, I'm finna file, is that when the clock start? How does that 30-day clause work?
that's the prenup will define that. That's a great question. So in
Mm.
a prenup, and I think it's a great clause. I mean, it's tough, and I will say that's one of the clauses that I always like to include in my prenups because again, the point behind a prenup is yes, you want to decide all of the assets and debts and money. You want to decide that ahead of time, but you also want to minimize litigation. You want to minimize the amount of attorney's fees that you're going to spend because you're having to run to court and ask the judge to decide these things. So people don't think about, oh, when we're living together and I file for divorce, they don't think about, who's going to have to leave because you're not going to want the person that you want to divorce to be in your space. It's just mentally and emotionally, that's just a tough thing to deal with. So it depends on the prenup. Oftentimes, the prenup will say the clock starts from when the divorce is filed because you want to have a finite date. Like you want to have a clear black and white date that both sides can calculate from.
Mm.
Like you don't
Okay.
want to say
Mm.
from the date of separation. She may think they separated July 15th. he may think, oh, we were separated July 15th. I thought we weren't separated until September 22nd. He may have a different opinion because remember, being in a state of separation is a mental thing. It's when you believe that you are no longer acting as husband and wife. It's a physical thing too, because it has to be a date after the last time you were sexually involved with your spouse, because you can no longer have intercourse with your spouse or your divorce can be thrown out. But yeah, so as far as the actual time frame, it depends on what the prenup says. The prenup could say from the time that she filed, or what I'm negotiating in one of my prenups right now, I'm negotiating that it be done. I'm representing the man. I'm negotiating that the clock starts from the time that he is served, because what if she files, or I'm saying she just because of the circumstances that I'm doing right now. What if I said to my client, what if she files 25 days before and you have no clue? That's the purpose of service, is to put the other side on notice. What if she files 25 days ago and you have no clue? And by the time you find out, you got 5 days left on the clock to get your stuff and get out.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Let's not say from the time that either party files, because if he files, he's all good. I told him, I said, if you file, you're all good. But you always want to think about the what ifs. So what if you don't file and she files? Then you're not all good. So I told him, I said, I think the best way to do it is it should be calculated from the time that the person has service or notice of the divorce, because then that person knows, and then and then y'all can calculate it. So if she said from the time that the divorce is filed, then the 30 days starts from last Friday, November 21st, if that's the case. But it really just depends on what the prenup says.
Oh, okay. So saying you're separated on July 15th doesn't mean that he necessarily left the house on that day. It just means it could be, I found out you was cheating on July 14th, July 15th. I wake up and I take my ring off and I say, I'm done. That's my separation date.
Right. And like I said, the state of separation is different. It's very subjective because it depends on when you believe your marriage ended. So in Georgia, when they say in Georgia, you have to put it in the paperwork. You have to say that you have been living in a bona fide, that just means a true state of separation, and that you can no longer live together as husband and wife. It doesn't mean you can't live in the same roof, because people, roommates live together. It doesn't mean you can't live under the same roof. It just means that you can no longer live as husband and wife. And like I said, the key element being you're no longer sexually intimate with the other person. So let's just say, and I get this question all the time, and people
because I'm about to ask you. I'm like, the holidays coming up now. I'm finna get my little Christmas PJs out. My hot chocolate, my holiday movies coming on. I'm getting warm and fuzzy.
It's cuffing season, right?
Right. I want to be there with the kids when they open Christmas presents, just like you.
And let me tell you,
Christmas Eve, Santa comes in our room after he leaves the presents, and we have sex. What happens? What happens?
Don't do it. So, when you're telling the court we're in a state of separation, and in Georgia, it doesn't matter how long. Other states, you have to be separated for like a year or 30 days. In Georgia, there is no minimum time frame by which you have to be separated. Like it doesn't say, Georgia law doesn't say a day or a few hours. It doesn't matter. Just at the time of filing. So like you mentioned, you can decide tomorrow that you want to be divorced, and you take your ring off, and you're no longer moving as a unit. But if after you file, you and your spouse have sexual intercourse, if somebody goes to tell on the other spouse and say, hey, judge, we just had intercourse, you need to throw this divorce out, the judge will seriously consider dismissing the divorce, because you have to come to court separated. And the judge will say, well, you know what? You all aren't living in a true state of separation if you're still intimate with your spouse. And I actually had that happen. I literally had that happen in a divorce. We were going at it for a year and a half. I was representing the husband. The wife did not want the divorce because she was not ready to move out. She was enjoying his financial support. And I think it was one of their birthdays. I can't remember whose birthday. It was one of their birthdays. She was living downstairs in the basement. He was upstairs. Somehow there was this entanglement that occurred, and the court found out about it because she told her lawyer, the lawyer filed a motion and said, Judge, we need to dismiss the divorce because they had sex. The judge dismissed the divorce because they had sex. And that divorce had been pending a year and a half. They were thousands of dollars into it. We had to refile and start over. And that cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars. Literally, it was a 6-figure divorce. All because of night of fun.
So,
so if you're done with your spouse,
he paid for something. So that was a pay. So he paid. So basically all the money he spent for that divorce. So that one night, that piece of that one night cost him hundreds of thousands, like $100.
Literally did.
You have been fighting for a year and a half, and now you got to start. And did he know that? Oh, he knew that already, but the flesh was weak. The flesh was
right. So it's, let me tell you. So now that they are in a bona fide state of separation, or he can, like I said, Todd can come back and say, no, look, we were not in a bona fide state of separation at that time. We were in a true state of separation starting October 1 or starting November 21st. When I heard about the divorce, I had no idea. So he can allege
anything. So if his answer has a different separation date than hers, does that do anything?
Yes and no. No being because all the law says is we just need to know y'all are separated. If y'all are both on board that y'all are living in a state of separation, so be it.
Okay.
Yes, sometimes it's discretionary, meaning it's up to the judge. But yes, sometimes if a lawyer wants to, let's say we're dealing with assets, and let's say there's money involved. There could be a fight about a lump sum of money that comes in, right? There could be a lump sum of money that comes in, let's say August. And, one person may say, you know what, Judge, we've been living in a state of separation since July. Yeah, I did get this $150,000 bonus in August, but we were already separated. So I don't think it's fair for you to count that as marital funds. I should keep all of it, where the other spouse may say, lies. We were not separated until October 1st. I was still there. I was supportive. So that $150,000 bonus that came in August, I should be able to still, be entitled to that because I was still her husband or I was still his wife. So yes and no. In Georgia, it's still marital funds, but arguing over what's fair and how it should be divided. Yeah. Sometimes people like to use that separation date as a basis for their argument. So that's why I say yes and no. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Kandi's always signing contracts and getting new deals. So something could have closed after that date as to why she chose that date as a date of separation. So it's going to be very interesting. Todd, hurry up. Where's the answer, please? We need the answer, Todd. We need the answer. But before we go any further, shout out to the Little Gaming Channel for $100 super chat. Ooh. Wow, you are now the stream sponsor. Thank you so much. The Little Gaming Channel is out in California. He's a YouTuber. Amazing channel. He says, good morning from California. Keep it going, Fit. Thank you so much. Y'all go check out his channel. If one of the mods can place his channel in the chat. Little Gaming Channel has a channel where he drives trucks, right? But it's through gaming. And so it's so cool to watch. And as he's taking these trucks on the road, I mean, it keeps me hooked because I'm really like I'm watching him drive. It's so cool. And he'll just be on the road and then talking about some stuff. So y'all go check out his channel, the Little Gaming Channel. Thank you so much for that support. And met him on the Leads channel, TLA, the lead attorney. Shout out to my YouTube mentor who gave me the TLA effect October 28th of last year. And that was my first live. And here we are. So thank you so much. The YouTube is just such a great community because so many of Lee's followers are on my channel. Y'all, it's 194 people in this chat. Y'all with me on a Saturday morning. Like, get out of here. YouTube is amazing. So thank you. If y'all can put TLGC in the chat, thank you so much. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel, mods, places, channel in the chat. Thank you so much. I am going to update the banner and put your name in the banner. Thank you so much. And we have a $10 super chat from AC Farrey. Oh, I think I know that name. I know that's right. So important. Thank you so much. He says, great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shout out again to the Little Gaming Channel. Shout out to AC Farrey. Thank you so much for you all support. I saw some great questions that I wanted to
I did too.
Helen Daily 4985 says, my opinion, I think Todd left her and she's going to have a very hard time, probably hard time because he's always with the kids and she wanted him to be on the road with her, but she also wanted him to be the babysitter. Now, him being on, we don't know who left who, right?
Right.
We won't know until Kandi tells us because we know she's going to tell us. But that is a good point, right? About Todd always being with the kids. And a lot of people are thinking like that's been strategic, but really he has videotaped himself dropping the kids off, picking the kids up. He has had daddy daycare since Ace was born. He's on his YouTube channel. I mean, I just saw a video, which is another reason I didn't believe this. I thought they were all good. I just saw a video recently, a couple weeks ago, with him taking the kids to school and they're talking in the morning.
And that's what
how was that I think play out? Because they're asking Kandi in her paperwork, she's asked for joint custody of the kids. When I think of joint, I'm thinking we jointly have custody of them, which means 50-50. How is daddy daycare videos going to play into this joint custody? I mean, he got evidence, right? Just like she got videos of him signing his prenup. He clearly has video evidence from years of him being daddy daycare.
He does. I mean, but she does too. You know, she does too. And here's the thing. So I will say this. I thought it was very interesting. So these, you know, even though the petition for divorce doesn't say a lot, it says a lot to the trained eye.
Yeah.
So when
let me pull it up so they can see what we're
doing. Yes, let's get to that section. We were just pulling it up. So let's see.
Is this okay? So 6, yeah, those are not okay. So 5 just says there are 2 minor children born as issue of this marriage. And then 6 just talks about how the kids have resided with the parties from birth until the date of separation, and there's no other proceedings involving custody. That's just a standard paragraph that has to be in just to let the court know, like, there's not some other case pending at the same time that involves the kids, like a defects or something like that. And then so here's what we're talking about on number 7. The minor children have been in custody and joint control of both parties. Petitioner believes that it is in the best interest of the minor children for the petitioner and respondent to be awarded joint physical custody of the minor children.
Okay, so here we go. In Georgia, so the way that in Georgia, we have to figure out physical custody and legal custody. So physical custody is who are the children going to live with? Literally, where are they going to lay their heads every single night? Legal custody is dealing with decisions. Who's going to make decisions for the children about their education, their schooling, their medical decisions about their extracurricular activities, what type of religious faith they're going to exercise. That's legal custody. So first, let's deal with physical custody, because in paragraph 7, she said that she wants joint physical custody. Under Georgia law, that means 50-50. She wants an equal amount of time that both parents have with the children. Now, the other alternative could have been, she could have said, you know what? I want the children to live primarily with me. I want primary physical custody, and then I want their dad to have parenting time. Whatever parenting time schedule is in their best interest, but just let it be something that is not 50-50, something less than that. So my experience has been, especially representing a lot of fathers and mothers, is it's usually the case where mothers ask for primary physical custody. That is usually the case. Yes. And if they're asking for primary physical custody, it's because they feel like they have evidence and facts and things to support that request. Now, strategically, usually, again, going back to, for those of you just joining us, I'm very strategic when I file. Oftentimes, I file for the ideal. Like, you know, let me file for, you know, shoot for the stars up here. But then I'm going to use some room for negotiation and leverage, because then if we land here, then my client is okay.
Right.
So she could have said, I want primary physical custody. So then when her and Todd are negotiating back and forth, she could say, all right, We'll agree to 50-50. You know, she could have done that.
Yes.
Now, maybe a couple of things. Maybe she didn't want to deal with that whole song and dance strategic leverage move. Let's just get straight to it. She could have just said that and say, you know what? I think both of our kids can be with both parents equally, and they can, you know, it'll be fair and the children can sustain that. Maybe she decided to just do that.
Yeah.
Or being the busy woman that she is, she has a whole play that she is going to be a part of. I think it's Juliet. I can't remember what it's called, but she has a play that she's going to be a part of in New York that I think starts next month in December. That's going to take a lot of her time away. You know, she still has her group, her music group that she from time to time does concerts with and tours with. She's a busy woman. And so she may feel like, you know what, it's best to ask for 50-50 because I am going to need his help. I'm going to need his help half the time of the year to take care of the children. Or maybe I could only be there half the time of the year to take care of the children. So it's very telling that she's only asking for 50-50. Not, and I'm not saying only asking for, but it's interesting that she started with not here, but she started here, asking for joint physical custody. Now I'm curious as to what Todd will say.
Now,
You know,
I was just thinking about that, right? So I'm thinking too, another one is, okay, first off, we have all seen their entire marriage and everything play out, right? On TV. We've seen it. So we know how busy she is. So you already know what would the blogs have been saying had she said, I want primary physical custody of the kids. They'd have been like, now, Kandi, you know you ain't had them kids. Like, it would have just been a whole blow up mess, right?
And that's why she filed as Kayla Tucker. So y'all can get out of her business.
All of her business, right?
You know,
but then too, I'm thinking if I file for joints, maybe I will show him I'm being reasonable. So then he won't come back and file. Because if I had filed for primary, he's definitely going to come back and say, no, I want primary. How are you going to take my kids? Because that's how he's going to receive it. And that's how a lot of men who have been in the home with their kids from day one, he's not a baby daddy, right? He's the husband. He's a father. He's been there from day one. So now somebody's going to lose time because both of you are not going to wake up with these kids like you've been doing for the time, all time of their lives. So a lot of dads get offended by that primary custody request. And now I got to go to visitation. I'm not a visitation daddy. It set them off. So this could have been a way to avoid the set off, to say, like, I know this is where we need to land. And maybe this is the only thing they agree on. Maybe they already agree on that point, and the fight is on this prenup and some other stuff. I don't know. We're going to see. Like, his answer is really going to show us. But maybe this joint, if I was her, I would have started with joint as well, because we usually do say primary, because like you say, it gives me negotiation room. But in this case, that would have been a stretch. I think for anybody to think I need, deserve, or can handle primary. So I'm gonna start fair. I'm gonna go ahead and
primary
start. I don't want him to challenge me, because Todd really could come back and his answer could say, no, I want primary custody of these kids and visitation. Because what is 50-50? If you're in New York, are you saying the week I have my kids, then the other week they're gonna go to New York?
That's the other thing. Right. Because the thing is it in the children's best interest? You know, at the end of the day, you know, I think the children are 6 and 9, you know, they're in school. They're in school, they have activities, they have a routine that needs to be maintained. And can that be maintained on a 50-50 schedule? You know, and primary just means, and people think that, you know, with one person having primary custody, that, oh, it's a bad thing, I don't ever get to see my children. No, it just means it's something less than 50% that the other person has, meaning the other person may have them 40% of the time and you have them 60%. You may decide, you know what, during the week, they need to be in my home, and maybe Thursday night you can get them and then take them to school on Friday. So at least if there's any disruption is during the latter part of the week. So maybe they're with me during the week, and then maybe Thursday night until Monday when you take them back to school, they're with the other parent. And maybe we do that every week or every other week, or, you know, something to that nature. So just because one parent has the children more than 50% of the time, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person is just relegated to being well, like somebody said in the chat, a babysitter. No, it's just trying to keep a schedule that works out for the children, that maintains their routine and consistency, but still has both parents involved. Because the amount of time that you spend doesn't equate to quality of time, meaning that your children can be with you more, but if you aren't present, you're working, you're, scrolling on social media, you're out with your friends, they're always with someone else. Just because you have that time doesn't mean it's the quality of time that's needed. So it's more so quality that should be focused on than quantity. But yes, I do think that when she said 50-50, that sends a message to him like, okay, I'm coming, here's my piece. I'm coming with, I don't want no smoke, when it relates to the children.
You brought up a good point. So joint doesn't necessarily mean 50-50, right? It could be 60-40.
No, joint physical is 50-50.
50-50. But what if the other parent technically can't get 50, right? So if you're about to go to New York for a play and you're going to be gone and like you have to be at the play every day for 6 weeks. So you're not going to be, so how does that work?
Like 50-50. And that's what I was saying. I was going back to that would mean the other parent, if in real life a true 50-50 can't be done, then the other parent has to be designated as the primary physical parent. So, that's some people look at it as, oh, they're trying to take custody. No, sometimes it's just not practical. It's like saying if somebody is in the military or somebody, is in the NFL and travels, or is in the Major League Soccer and travels for work, or even is just the entertainer and travels. It's going to be hard to say you want a joint physical custodial arrangement because in reality, it just cannot be done. It sounds good on paper, but it can't be done. And so I don't know if that was just to, say, hey, I don't want to fight about the children. Or she may feel like, okay, Todd may ask for primary. So let me say no. This is my way of saying no to his primary custody. I'm saying we need the children equally. Or sometimes people ask for joint physical custody because, and I know we're going to get to this because she mentions it, for child support reasons.
And that's a great point. Too True 007 had a question. So that means no child support? Does that, if you get 50-50, does it mean neither party pays child support? We just wash, we do our own thing?
No, not in Georgia. So in Georgia, and remember, guys, this divorce is pending in Georgia. In Georgia, we have a child support calculator, and it bases child support it calculates child support based on each person's income. So the calculator takes the pro rata share of their income. Like, for example, if one parent makes, I'm just going to use clean numbers. If one parent makes $5,000 a month and the other parent makes double that, like $10,000 a month, then they're going to look at it and say, okay, you make more of the share. So in a 50-50 situation, like the calculator will say how much each parent's obligation is every month based on their income. So let's say the person that's making $5,000 a month, their child support obligation is for 2 children. Let's say it's $1,000. Again, I'm just using, clean numbers. Let's just say it's $1,000 a month. And then the other person that makes $10,000 a month, let's say it's double that. Their obligation is $2,000 a month. Whoever, let's start with the 50-50. If they both have 50-50 custody, and the person that makes $5,000, they have to pay $1,000, and the other person has to pay $2,000 because they make $10,000 a month, then in theory, they each pay each other their respective child support, right? So that means I'm going to pay my $1,000 to you, you pay your $2,000 to me, and that leftover is $1,000, right? The other person's paying $1,000 extra. So even in a 50-50 custody situation, if they make significantly different incomes, the person who makes more still is going to have to pay their overage to the other person, which is an extra $1,000. So even if you have the children equally, you still can end up paying more in child support to the other person, even on an equal basis. That's if your income is the same. If your income is different. Now, if your income is the same, let's say they both make $5,000 a month. Okay, my child support is $1,000 a month. Your child support is $1,000 a month. I pay you mine, you pay me yours, is $0. So it does end up being $0 child support if it's 50-50 and they both make the same amount. The problem becomes when one person makes significantly more. Even in a 50-50 situation, they will owe the other person child support. Now, when that happens, they'll usually the parties will try to work out the person who has the exposure, the person who makes the more money, who has the exposure. They'll either agree to it and say, you know what, that's fine, I'll give you 5,000 a month for the children, even though we have them equally, because guess what, I want to make sure they're good over there. I want to make sure y'all are living decent. I want to make sure the children have what they need. I don't want to just leave you out there to dry. I want to make sure that the lifestyle the children are used to and the amenities and needs and resources that they're used to having, I want to make sure they're still maintained even when they're over there with you. So that person may agree, look, hey, I'll go ahead and pay you the $5,000 per month child support. Fine. But sometimes you have some parents, and I experienced this a lot with like maybe my athletes, or my high profile fathers that make a lot of money. They may make more money than the other parents. Sometimes they want to really make sure that the money is going towards the child. So instead of negotiating direct money to the mother, they'll say, you know what, I'll give you 5,000, but it's going to be in the form of paying for their expenses. I'll take care of all their private school tuition. I'll take care of all their medical expenses. I'll pay for all the tutoring classes. I'll pay for all of their extracurricular activities. I'll pay for their travel. I'll pay to fly them out to me if they're, if I'm playing a game, or I'll pay for their haircuts. I'll buy their clothing. Here's a stipend for groceries. They'll negotiate it in the form of making sure that the expenses are taken care of. Because sometimes, I mean, we hear these stories. Not with my cases though, but we hear these stories where, you have these men paying 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month, 15,000 a month. And I'm like, who is their lawyer?
Right. Crazy.
Because
yeah.
Yes, and they use that money. Oftentimes the other parent use that money to fund their lifestyle and not necessarily take care of the children, to the tune of 15,000 a month,
Correct.
so. But yeah, so I think it's interesting that she said joint physical, because she's still on the hook for child support.
Yeah, and like you say, can she really deliver a joint physical situation? I saw a comment in the chat. I'm going to bring it up. Says Kandi, B North 82 says Kandi was with her kids and Todd's oldest daughter on Thanksgiving with her family. Yes, she was, and I've seen some blog posts and coverage on it, and they say Todd was there as well, although he wasn't in the big picture. Maybe he was taking the picture. I don't know, but he was allegedly there. But there was talk that she flew in the night before to be there from New York, because she's got this play and stuff coming up, and that she wasn't going to come, but kind of was advised that optics, she needs to be there, right? And as we talked about, divorce is strategic, right? So if we're going for this joint custody situation and you just filed for divorce, you don't need to miss the next big holiday being in New York, right? Because you're in court now. So everything that you do is going to be under this
microscope.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just interesting. If you can't deliver the joint, like I said, I think it just may have been a way for him not to ask for primary, and maybe just to go with joint, even though it's not going to be a true joint. Let's just call it that way, and we'll work out between ourselves how we'll have the kids. It's just going to be interesting. Todd's answer is really going to tell us where that is going to take us with this case. Let me go back.
Somebody said that Kandi posted that he was there, just left early.
Yeah, so that I was saying too that he was there. He just wasn't in that big picture. So
yeah.
So he probably was there. Okay, so 8 says that the petitioner believes it's in the best interest of the minor children for the parties to be awarded joint legal custody of the minor children. And let's chat about that. And that's most times what happens in every divorce almost. I really haven't, seen them, and you do way more and have been doing them. Do you ever see a situation where it isn't a joint legal? Because that just means that we share decision making.
It's rare that I see that it's not joint legal.
Right.
Most divorces, most parents are there, throughout the marriage. And so again, guys, legal custody just means decision making, making decisions for the children. I can't think of a situation, even with my cases, where I was not able to get joint legal custody, in a divorce. I was even I always tell people I was even able to get Apollo joint legal custody when he went to prison. He was in prison
Exactly.
going through his divorce from Phaedra,
Right.
and I got him joint
Yeah.
legal custody. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, you
and
just
the judge was
don't
like,
really
"Yeah,
see
y'all need to.
parents
Yes, you need to get
not
on the
getting
phone
that.
and talk."
Mhm.
Right. You got to talk about it, talk
Mhm.
about, how these children would be raised, discuss the
Mhm.
issues regarding their schooling, all of that.
Mhm. And
So it's
so
pretty common.
yeah, and when it comes to legal custody, the categories that fall under what is legal custody is about the education of the kids, who's gonna make decisions with education, health care decisions, religion, and extracurricular activities. And so, as a parent, joint legal custody means that we got to talk about those things. So you can't just go do whatever you want to do with the kids. I can't just go do. We jointly talk about these things. However, there is a final decision maker, right? Because somebody has to make that final call, and that will be talked about and decided. And so it could be a situation. And what I usually commonly see is whoever the primary custodian is, or wherever the kids live and reside, that jurisdiction that they'll be attending school, then that parent usually is the person who will have final say over education, because most times they'll have to be the one to enroll the kids because it's their jurisdiction. Also, they may be the ones that are over healthcare, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand sometimes, but sometimes it can split. And so one parent will be decided who will have final say. And if parent gets education and extracurricular, or education and healthcare, then maybe the other one gets extracurricular and religion. Like, it's just a way to make both parents still be involved, force you all to co-parent, so you're not just getting a divorce and going to do willy-nilly and coming back to court every day to fight over stuff. The court really does try to set you all up to, when you leave, there's this piece of paper document that kind of help you work things out. So somebody will be given final say over those areas, but that is what the joint legal custody means, is that we're going to talk about things together. We're going to co-parent. And so, like
Right.
I said, Attorney Farrey says she doesn't really have a divorce where that doesn't happen. She even got Apollo that, and he was in prison at the time. Like,
Right.
they want you to be a parent to your child. So that usually occurs. We talked about the ground. She states that it's irretrievably broken. And as we stated, adultery doesn't have to be included or stated as the grounds unless you're really trying to come in here and argue like, okay, no, they don't deserve alimony or get alimony because I can prove they had an affair, something like that. And let's just talk about the proof for these affairs. I don't think people really understand,
Right.
like, all those text messages with your paramour and all that stuff. You delete them off your phone, they not gone. Because you got great attorneys like Miss Farrey who will hit up her private investigator. They'll send a subpoena to Verizon. They'll send a subpoena to T-Mobile. And like the was it the mayor in whatever, and he had his case, like they were bringing up text messages and stuff between him and the mistress and put him in court. So that stuff is never gone. So those will be ways that you could prove, right? If somebody got their paramour pregnant, that would be a way that you could prove an affair, that something had happened, sex. Or if you got a private eye that was able to catch them, maybe you could get Tammy from Basketball Wives on them, and she catches them, and then you can bring that evidence into court. But you have to be able to prove it, or it's not going to be listed. So we spoke about their reason being irretrievably things broken. 10 was her asking the court to enforce the prenup. Now this is the one I thought, okay, and you tell me, because I haven't typed up a divorce petition in years. 11 was the parties possess debts that have incurred throughout the duration of the marriage, which should be subject to equitable division directed by the prenuptial agreement. What I didn't then see was the parties have amassed wealth.
Yeah.
I thought it weird that she threw the debts in there. Like, is this normal? Like, for you just to say something about the debts, or is this a sign to tell us there's a lot of debt that incurred throughout this man? Like, what? Tell me about this.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too,
Mhm.
because usually in the divorce petition, you do see, if there's no prenup involved, you do see the parties say there's property and assets that the parties accrued during the marriage, and we want that to be equitably divided. That just means divided fairly. Then you also see a paragraph that says there's also been debts accrued during the marriage that we want the court to equitably divide. That's what you usually see. In this instance, she mentions the prenup, and she wants the prenup to be enforced. And the prenup, again, usually includes how things are going to be divided regarding the assets and debts. So
Mhm.
really, she could have ended it there and
Yes.
said, I want the prenup enforced because it already deals with division of assets and debts and property. but she didn't. She specifically lists a separate paragraph that says there are debts too, and it needs to be, and it says equitably divided, which is fairly divided, but then it says as directed by the prenup.
Right.
So it's interesting that it was carved out. I don't know if it was, it probably doesn't mean anything, right? Maybe it's just, hey, this is how we type it up, when we submit our petitions. But also, it could be some emphasis there because maybe there could be a dispute about debts that's not clearly defined in the prenup. And that's another thing. Like, did the prenup define the debts? And if it did, is there a dispute about the debts, when it comes to who pays what? So maybe is this a foreshadowing that there's also been discussions already, and Todd probably feels like maybe some debts he should not be responsible for, or maybe some debts she needs to be responsible for or help out with. But then she's probably like, we have this prenup, and this is how these debts are going to be paid for in accordance with this prenup. So maybe there is a dispute there.
Yeah. And it could be a situation we already know that coming into the marriage, there was greater wealth on Kandi's side than Todd's, right? So it could be a situation where, okay, we said this is how debts were going to be divided, but now we got a lot of debt. So like you're eating a lot into my side. So I'm about to walk away with kind of a little bitty and you still good over there because you had 34 million and the debt's coming out of my 200,000. That's not fair. So maybe that is our issue arguing. Like, I feel like you should eat up some more of this debt because you were putting more money into it. You had more money to be able to pay the debts. Maybe that is a source, but I did think that was strange that debts was listed out and when they already said that they wanted the prenup to be enforced and like you said, equitable division, and explain to the people, because a lot of time California, that's a 50-50 state. So things are divided up 50-50, but Georgia, what does equitable division even mean? Like, is there a number? Is it what you feel like giving me? What's equitable mean?
And that's the thing in Georgia. And so people automatically assume, oh, he want half or he want 50-50. In Georgia, we are not a 50-50 state, meaning it doesn't matter how long you've been married. That does not mean the judge is going to divide everything 50-50. We are an equitable division state. Equitable just means fair. The judge is going to divide things up based on what's fair. Now, people say, what is fair? Like, what does that mean? Well, one thing that the court can take into consideration is conduct of the parties during the marriage. And conduct doesn't necessarily just mean, oh, did somebody cheat? Did somebody act out? Conduct means, well, how did you all handle the bills and expenses? What did you all earn in relation to the other? Sometimes the court makes the person who has more of the money pay more of the debts because they have more of the marital assets. It just doesn't make sense, practically speaking. I had a case where the parties had literally $1 million in tax debt. And, they had $1 million in tax debt because taxes were not being paid running this LLC that they had together. And one person had more of the money based on their profession. And so the court required him to pay that $1 million tax debt, even though it belonged to both of them. But also, the judge also gave him their $1 million house because even though he took on more of the debt, the judge also gave him more of the asset to make it balance out. So then it ends up being fair. And so whereas the other person may feel like that's not fair, he gets to keep the house too. Well, he's also taking on this $1 million debt and you get to start over debt free. And you get to start over and buy your own house because you have some of these accounts and these monies. So what's fair really just depends on the circumstances. And that's the thing. When you are drafting up a prenup, your prenup defines what's fair. That's the purpose of it. It's like you don't want to fight about it when you get to court. You don't want to have to prove what happened during the marriage. You want to save these legal fees, save the time and headache, and present the contract to the judge and say, look, judge, this is what we said is fair. So you need to sign off on it, and this is how we're going to divide everything up.
So this all really just is back to Todd. And I don't know, like with the whole equitable division, this may be a really good state, or let me know if you agree, to challenge a prenup if you have issues with it being fair or equitable now, with this whole, because we're not a 50-50 and because a judge could look at it and say, well, he's been daddy daycare. I've been allowing her to amass all of this. It's no longer fair. I didn't know that I was going to take that role when we got married and I signed this prenup. Like, yeah, we thought we were going to have kids, but I thought we were going to be building this together only. And maybe, I would have more of a net worth, but I took a back seat. There were even some times on one of the shows I was watching in preparation, there were some ventures that he could go do on his own and make his own money. And she was saying, no, you want to be self-employed. Let's work together on this. So turn down that outside money and let's stay working on here, because this over time will give you more money because you can get the royalties on the back end. She's trying to, get him to think like that. Okay, well, I did that. So now I don't have all my little outside stuff outside of you. I did what you said and worked with you now. And I don't know, it ain't fair no more. Like you said, I only got $200,000. I can't pay this $1 million worth of debt. I can't pay for the debt from Blaze. I can't pay from the closing OLG. I think you should take all of that debt. And maybe that's what they're arguing about. And maybe that's why this paragraph's here. It's just really, y'all, we're really going to get to know more about where the contention lies once Todd files his answer. That's really,
and he would have that basis if he's able to prove that the facts and circumstances have changed so much since they signed the prenup back in 2013, 2014, that is now unfair. He, remember, that's one of the three bases that a person can challenge a prenup on. And he can do that. He can move forward with challenging it on those grounds. But it's going to be tough because, human nature, judges are human at the end of the day. And even though they view every case objectively, they're still human. And so it's kind of hard for the human mind to get away from, but you signed a prenup, but you signed the prenup, but you signed it. So you really have, it's very challenging. You really have to have your evidence and your ducks in a row to be able to prove that those circumstances have changed since then. And you got to have the coins to fight too. You got to have the money to be able to fight, because it's going to cost some money to do that.
And now I remember, I believe Tyrese had a prenup with Samantha. I think that's his ex-wife's name, I believe. And there was a clause that if she challenged it, she would have to pay her own attorney's fees. Now, it didn't work out that way. That case went way left. The judge did some other stuff, and it's a whole appeal, and he did have to end up paying her fees anyway. But that a prenup could contain that. It could say, Todd, if you want to challenge it, then you got to pay, your own attorney's fees, where if you don't challenge it, then I'll handle the divorce. And the fact that they're separately filing may show us that might be the plan.
Right. And so one of the things that, as far as the attorney's fees, that's a good point. Usually there is a clause in a prenuptial agreement that talks about attorney's fees too, because in Georgia, when it comes to attorney's fees, one party can be on the hook for paying the other party's lawyer. And the reason being is because when you're married, Georgia sees you. I mean, you're one unit. The money both of you all make together goes into one pot. And so if one spouse holds all the money because they make more, the judge is going to say, you know what? From your income, you need to pay over some of those marital funds to your spouse, because your spouse is entitled to a lawyer, and it's not fair for you to be in possession of all of y'all's marital money and then the other spouse doesn't have money to hire a lawyer. So oftentimes if somebody makes way more in the relationship, in the marriage, they have to pay the other person's attorney's fees. Now, in the prenup, every single prenup should include a provision about the lawyer's fees, because you don't want, if you're the one holding all the money, you don't want to be the one responsible for the other person's legal fees, especially if they're going to be litigating and trying to tear up the prenup and, dragging things out. You don't want to be on the hook for that. Exactly. But one thing I thought was interesting in her paperwork, again, she already mentioned in one paragraph she wanted the prenup enforced. She comes back 3 paragraphs later and says the petitioner asserts that the parties shall be responsible for their respective attorney's fees and costs. So it made me wonder, I'm like, did she have a provision in the prenup about fees or not? Maybe she didn't have a paragraph in there about attorney's fees, because you already asked for the prenup to be enforced. Now you're coming back and saying to the court, oh, by the way, everybody needs to pay their own legal fees. So it makes me wonder whether or not she had that attorney's fees provision in her prenup, because if she did not, she can be on the hook for his legal fees. If the parties didn't decide already that each person was going to pay their own legal fees, Kandi can end up paying his legal fees, or vice versa. He can end up paying her legal fees if maybe the court, feels like he's being frivolous or just dragging things out for no valid reason. Now, let's say when it comes to the legal fees, if there is a provision in there that says, you know what, you pay your fees, I pay mine. Sometimes there's also a provision, which is a good clause to include. There's a provision in there that says, we have this prenup in place. We both think it's fair. We both, the purpose of the prenup is to save time and headache and expenses. But whoever challenges the prenup, if they challenge the prenup and lose, they got to pay everybody legal expenses. That is what you want to include in a prenup, because then it discourages the other person from wanting to challenge the prenup. And so that could be, if they have that in their prenup and it says, if you challenge it, you have to pay my legal fees if you lose, then he could be on the hook for her legal fees if he challenges the prenup and loses. Now, that's assuming that they have it in there. I don't know. Paragraph 13 makes me wonder whether that's in there.
It's weird because it's some stuff being double speak in the petition that you don't need to say that if it's in the prenup. Now, Buddy 305 Love 9 has a great question. Why even go through a prenup if people can just challenge it? And we're saying, talk and challenge it, but what's the point of having it if it can be challenged?
I mean, remember at the time that they entered a prenup, you're in love, you're happy, you're thinking this is going to be forever and ever. But it just goes back to, yes, the prenup at that time sounded like a great idea. And the terms at that time sounded like a great idea. But you have to remember that was 11 years ago. Here we are 11 years later. Circumstances may have changed. Things may be different. There are situations, it's not related to their situation, but sometimes there are situations where a spouse falls ill and becomes sick, or becomes disabled and can no longer work anymore. Sometimes people don't think about that from the onset. They may say, yes, it was a good idea then, but now this is our circumstance. None of us we can't predict the future, right? It's only but so much that you can put in a contract. It's only but so much that you can foresee. And so there are just some situations you don't foresee. And at the end of the day, it may not be fair. And everybody has their right to be heard. Everybody has their right, to assert their claims in court. So if you feel like the situation is just so unfair and egregious that you want to challenge it, then you have a right to do so. I get it. It seems like almost, a waste of time of going through the prenup. But again, if the circumstances have changed and this situation has been 11 years, there's no telling what that prenup said then that it probably should have said now.
And a lot less get challenged than don't. So don't feel like every prenup is challenged. And we already went over the ways that you can challenge it. You have to have one of these grounds to legally challenge it. So it's not just a free for all on a challenge. So the prenups are still the way to go. Still get them. They're enforceable. Like she said, she designs ironclad prenups every day. She's had to defend some of hers that have stood up, and she's even challenged some she did trying to undo them. It's too good, and the judge like, nah.
I've gotten thrown out too. One thing we did not really focus on that I want to just kind of briefly mention is one of the main reasons that prenups get thrown out in Georgia is because one side didn't disclose all of their finances. That is a huge reason, because when you're signing a contract and you're negotiating terms and you're signing your rights away, or you're agreeing to take on something or divide something, you're doing it based on the knowledge that you have of your soon-to-be spouse's financial circumstances, right? You're entering this prenup because, I know my spouse is coming to the marriage with a lot of debt. So let me, separate myself from their debt. I know they're coming to the marriage with a lot of child support obligation. Or I know I'm coming to the marriage with a lot of assets and properties. I want to be able, to protect it, or whatever the case may be. So when it comes to disclosing your financial situation, you have to be upfront and honest. You have to lay all the cards out on the table so that your spouse, your soon-to-be spouse, can make an informed decision. And so you can make an informed decision. But if someone fails to mention an offshore Swiss account, or they fail to mention or disclose their true income, like, okay, I told you I make 150 a year, but really I make 3 million a year, and you signed off thinking that, okay, we're going to divide things up 50-50 or less than that. And you find out later that, okay, you were really making 3 million and I had no clue. I would have negotiated things differently.
Yeah.
That's a basis to get the prenup thrown out. And I've been successful on those grounds, getting it thrown out. And then once the prenup is thrown out, you have to start from ground zero with the Georgia default law, which is the court is going to divide things up fairly or equitably.
So that's you just got to see. And I saw a comment from Helen Daly 4985, and you might have to go back and watch. We discussed went in great detail about this. Todd may not have liked the prenup, but he definitely didn't sign it under duress. So she says again, I say he signed that prenup under duress in his dressing room just before he walked down the aisle, and they discussed on the show he was not happy, but he did it anyway to walk down the aisle. Yes, he did sign it hours before the wedding. However, this was something that was discussed for months. He had his own attorney. They did negotiations. Some clips on the show, they showed him talking to her privately about the last two things he wanted to change, one being the 30 days to get out the house, and which came later. It wasn't a big deal to him, because if things are going south, most times you do kind of want to leave. But anyway,
Right.
He signed it close to the wedding just because negotiations were still going, but it was something that had started months before the wedding, and he never liked it. But not liking the prenup is not duress.
It's not duress.
No, because you're saying, I want to be with you. I might not like this, but I want to marry you, so I got to sign it. Like, so he never liked it, but I don't believe he can make an argument that it was under duress, because although he signs it at the last minute, it was just because he kept going back and forth, and the lawyer, and a lot of that was drama for the show. Okay, no tea, no shade. Like, some of that was drama for the show as well, but he definitely knew in advance and had his own attorney. So I really believe that she's covered. She's covered there. So we're almost done with the document, but okay, so child support. So I saw a lot of bloggers and stuff saying, oh, Kandi asking for Todd to pay child support. Let's read what actually it says. The petitioner asserts that child support obligations for both the petitioner and the respondent be determined in accordance with child support guidelines of the state of Georgia, respectfully. So she is not saying, Judge, order him to pay child support. She is just saying, Judge, use the child support guidelines, plug it into the system, and whatever it says, and the parties will do that. So as you already discussed, you can't even say double, triple, right? It's not she out earns him. So when that petition is done, the worksheet is done, she's going to owe higher contribution to the child support overall number than he will. And so for that reason, even if they end up with joint custody, Kandi will probably still have to pay Todd some type of child support amount. And that's just gonna work out. You kind of want to, right? I don't see her being the type of person that wouldn't. She is not gonna want her kids to live a certain lifestyle with her and then go slum it up with dad whenever that doesn't make any sense. It just puts the kids through turmoil. I mean, I even had a case and see some judges say they were still in this marital home and hadn't left yet, and they were coming in. They would make the parents rotate, right, staying in the house, so the kids wouldn't have to leave. A lot of times, some judges have said, this is the kids' residence. They're going to stay here. Mom, you come here for a week. And Dad, you come here for a week, and when the other party leaves, y'all go stay in an apartment. Y'all can get your own places, or y'all can get a place that y'all rotate and share, but the kids are not going to move back and forth each week, or Monday through Thursday and Thursday through Sunday. They're going to stay here and stable. That's what's best for them, and y'all rotate it out. So sometimes that can happen, and it's just about, so it just depends on what's going to happen with custody. But this worksheet, because if it comes out to where she's not the primary custodian, they don't do joint. What if Todd ends up being primary custodian and Kandi gets her visitation? Then that worksheet is going to kick out, a number based on that number, right? So it's not going to even be a whole 50-50 trying to see. She definitely is going to be paying some type of child support amount because she's going to have the kids less. So her asking for joint could have been trying to avoid that, how much she pays for child support, or I really think it's just strategic of me trying to wave a white flag. Like, let's try to work this out. I know I need you just as much as you need me. So let's try to work this out.
Right. And she probably just wants both parents to be in the children's lives. But I will say, so I will point out January 1, 2026, Georgia's new law goes into effect where the child support calculator is going to change, and every single parent is going to get an automatic reduction in their child support obligation that is equivalent to their parenting time. So the more parenting time a parent has, the less their child support obligation is. And that starts January 1. So just in, less than 45 days, that new law goes into effect. So that means that even if one parent has, more custodial time with the children, and the other parent owes child support, their child support is going to be, it's going to be a base child support that's set. And then depending on how many days they have, according to the parenting plan with the children, their child support reduces more and more and more and more. So it is beneficial for every single parent to who believes they may not get primary custody to always ask for at least joint physical custody or get as much time as possible, because it reduces your child support obligation. Now, in Georgia, you have to plead for child support. Like you mentioned, blogs out there, misstating the facts, talking about she just wants child support. No, there is no judge in Georgia that will finalize a divorce with children without addressing child support. And the law requires us, folks. The law requires attorneys to put in the divorce filing the statutory requirement that child support be calculated according to the guidelines. So that is all she mentioned, was that she wants it calculated according to the guidelines. Because one thing that the court also cannot do, the court can't waive child support. Yeah. I mean, the parties can't waive child support, meaning that the parties can't just agree that, all right, we're not going to pay each other to support these children. Because if you think about it, it just sounds crazy, right? Like, you don't have to give me any money for the children. And the other side saying, you don't have to give me any money for the children. We're not going to agree to support them. It's just, that's against public policy. So they can't waive child support. Now, what they can do is, like I mentioned earlier, for those of you that are just joining, what I mentioned earlier is they can figure out different ways to financially support the children, so it doesn't feel like it's a formal exchange of child support. So one person may agree to pay all the extracurricular activities and private school expenses and tutoring and, those sorts of things. But they both cannot just say, we're not going to have any formal exchange of child support. And I looked up their judge, the judge that is assigned to their case. She actually just, it's Judge Benton. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a family law attorney. She's a family law and divorce attorney. She did that for several years. She had her own family law practice, and she just took the bench, I want to say either a year or two ago. And I say that because she is a very knowledgeable judge that comes to the bench with experience as a divorce and child support attorney herself. So she is going to make sure that those I's are dotted and T's are crossed when it comes to this family law case. And she is going to really make sure that she follows the law when it comes to child support. So there will be some child support. Trust and believe there will be some child support based on her financial circumstances in comparison to his. The question is, what will that look like? How will it be paid?
How much? And now about this new Georgia law. So y'all take it in. Dads, moms, any primary custody parent can access this. I think I saw you talk about it on your TikTok, that you could already start filing these petitions, right? So you've already been getting child support decreased. Can you share like what some numbers are going, like what you're able to do with this new law?
So right now the courts, before the new law changes, the courts can give discretionary deviations, basically reductions of child support based on parenting time. It's discretionary right now. So a judge can decide, okay, you have this amount of parenting time, I'm going to go ahead and reduce your child support based on that. Come January 1, it's not discretionary. It's not up to the judge. It's going to be an automatic reduction. But what I have seen happening with my cases is judges don't want people coming back to them on January 1, filing a modification to change their child support based on this new law. They don't want a floodgate of cases opening up. They don't want people coming back and trying to argue that as a basis to change the child support. Like, judge, this new law is in place. This is the custodial time I have. I need to reduce it. So what I've been seeing happening in my cases are judges are using the discretionary part of the law right now to reduce the child support based on the fact that they know this new law is coming. So one of my cases, recently, I just wrapped up in April. I was representing husband. I think was earning like maybe $16,000 a month. Wife was earning about $10,000 a month. They have one child. His child support obligation, without any changes or deviations, reductions, his child support obligation was around $1,300 to $1,400 per month for this child, because they were already splitting the school expenses or the daycare expenses. So it was only about maybe $1,300, $1,400. But then when we applied because they had 50-50 custody, when we applied all of the reduction based on his parenting time, his child support came down to like 300. I think it was like 340, 300, 340 or something like that.
Y'all hear that?
It was reduced tremendously. And he was still like, I got to pay $340 a month. I'm like, come on. You pay that in gas every month. Like, just
but that's amazing, because he has the kids. A lot of times we would hear dads always complain, like, how can I live? First off, I only make $2,500 a month, and I got to pay her $1,000 a month. I got to live on $1,500, and I get the kids like 10 days. I don't have money to do anything with them when I get them, because my money is used up paying her child. So now this is compensating for that.
Yes, it takes that into consideration.
Yeah, it takes that into consideration.
Kids have money.
They involve dads. So if you're one of the trifling dads that you don't ever see your kids, leave these people alone. Okay. But if you're involved,
the reverse can happen. If for those of you out there, you have a co-parent that's not seeing the children, the law says you can file a modification to increase the child support. Because if there's a parenting and custody order out there, and your co-parent is supposed to be getting the children 10 days out of the month, but they show up 0 days out of the month, that is a basis to go back to court to increase the child support. Because during those 10 days, that means you have to feed them, clothe them, shelter them, transport them, pay for things, and it increases your expenses for the children. So that's a basis to actually increase the child support too.
Oh, okay. So 2026, they even in the playing field, so you can get your child support lowered if you're spending time. Well, I like this though, because it's encouraging parents to be good parents and be involved in their child's life. So it's rewarding you. That's how we got to do it, whatever, if that's what it takes. But yeah, this is a good thing. And I know moms will love it. Well, I'm saying moms, let me not be gender specific. The custodial parent will love this because a lot of dads are getting custody thanks to attorneys like you these days. And so they can come back and say, look, I need more help because she's not doing her part. She hasn't seen the child in 6 months. I need her to be paying more. So I love that is coming into place. Wow. And so, y'all, that's basically all of the divorce petition. The ends just says, that she wants to be awarded a total divorce. Now I did notice that she didn't put in here anything about her name being changed back legally.
I noticed that too. I put in
the documents. Don't you request that?
Well, it depends, right? Because you are supposed to plead in here. If you want to restore your maiden name, you are supposed to put that in here. Now, maybe she just wants to have the same name as her children. I don't know. Do her children have Todd's last name?
There was a whole discussion on one of the shows, is because her name is hyphens, which is not in these legal documents, but her name is Burris Tucker. And so Riley is still Burris. She's not Tucker. And she says that was one reason she wanted to stay Burris, so that Riley wouldn't feel like she was being lost in the sauce as they were combining these families. And then now the Ace and Blaze will have, Tucker. So
maybe she wants
so maybe she wants to just stay Burris Tucker, and by her staying that way legally, she can choose to present to the public whatever name she chooses. So she can be Kandi Burris in her social media, in her entertainment, which is what she's done, and she can remain on legal documents as we see this as Tucker
at the school.
On the kids daycare, that kind of thing. She can keep the same name as the kids. So maybe that is what because I was surprised that I didn't see that in here, because you are supposed to plead and request that as well, that that your name go back. And a lot of women, and then her attorney, for those asking, her attorney is Onyema McKinnon. She's an attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia as well, and we are familiar with her as well. So this will be very interesting. I'm wondering if Todd will go get Onyema Farrey, another one amazing attorneys in Atlanta that we know, female, or Randy Kessler, right? We see him be involved in so many divorces on the Housewives franchise here in Atlanta and representing them in court. So not sure. We'll see if he'll show up. Who knows? Maybe he'll be able to convince TLA to come out of retirement and represent him in this divorce. Who knows? This is going to be really exciting to see. Just kind of like devastated about it ending, right? But we're here now. Can't change that. But it's just, this is going to be very intriguing. Let me not say excited. Let me say intriguing, interesting to see where this goes and how things play out. Now, but let's go back to the prenup. We haven't seen it, but I've been hearing a lot of talk about 10 years, 10 years. I remember Janet Jackson when she had her prenup. It was in the prenup that after 5 years, she'd get $500 million. And so she stayed to like 5 years and a day and then left and got cashed out. What's this 10 years we keep hearing? Is there things in prenups that can be, when you reach 10 years, the prenup is no longer good, or you hit a lick? What is this 10-year thing we're hearing?
I don't know where that came from, because there is nothing in Georgia law that indicates that there's a time frame or time limit regarding how long prenups last or how long they apply, or whether the provisions go stale, or all of that is defined in a prenuptial agreement. So some people may have a clause in the prenup that says, okay, if we've been married 5 years or less, everybody walks away with what they came into the marriage with. We split anything that's in our names together 50-50. There's no lump sum payments anywhere. And then you can say, all right, if it's anywhere from 5 years plus up to 10 years, up to 15 years or 20, then okay, then we'll agree on a large payout. I'll pay you out X amount. I'll give you alimony. There could be alimony paid out. She may have agreed to pay him alimony after a certain number of years. It just all depends on what the prenup says. Now, some people have those stair steps. Some people don't. It just depends on everyone's different financial circumstances. Like with my athletes, sometimes, everybody knows you're not in the NFL long. You don't play in the NBA forever. At some point it comes to an end. So, that type of client may not want that stair step, because they may say, look, just in case I don't save, or just in case things don't work out, or just in case my money, runs out because I get injured or I have to retire early, I don't want to leave myself on the hook for all this money after 10 years, because I may not have it then. I have it now, but I may not have $500,000 to pay out. So they may not want that in their prenup. Whereas someone else who's an entertainer that has royalties, that will be able to continue to get deals and have long-term money, so to speak, they may have that sort of stair step in their contractual agreement or in the prenup, because they know that, okay, even if I'm not actively working years down the road, I know I'll still have the funds to make sure that my spouse is okay. So yes, I will agree that after, and it doesn't even have to be 10 years. It could be 8 years. It could be 7 years. It could be 20 years. It just depends. And people do it that way as an encouragement to remain married and work things out. But also, if we don't work out, it's a way to say thank you. Here is, I don't want to say a reward, but here is just your fair share. Because again, while we're in love and I care about you, I'm making a fair decision to make sure that you're taken care of as well, as opposed to when I hate you years down the road and I think you're the enemy, and I can't think clearly and I want all the assets for myself. But yeah, there's no 10-year thing in Georgia.
Okay.
It all just depends on what the prenup says.
And you mentioned the stair step, and I think I remember Ashley Darby from Housewives of Potomac having some type of stair step. Like if they were married 2 to 5 years, she would get this over 5 years. So I guess a lot of people kind of, like you say, include that in, and it does encourage you to stay married longer, even if your intentions are just to get the money.
Yeah,
I mean, be here longer.
Right, and it rewards you for staying in it.
Janet was highly rewarded for her 5 years with the billionaire. when she was married to him. So thanks for bringing that up. Now, another question I have, because I hear a lot of times some people say post-nup. What is a post-nuptial agreement? What does it mean? How does it work? Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me in my head why I would sign one after I got married, but how does that work?
There's really no incentive to sign one. So a postnup is the same type of document as a prenup, except it happens after the parties have already said, I do.
Okay.
So after they've already said, I do, they
Mhm.
may enter into a contractual agreement after that to say how they would divide things up in the event of a divorce. Now, there is no incentive to sign it because you can't say, look, if you don't sign this, we're not going to get married because you're
Y'all
already
been
married,
married.
and it's, I think I've maybe have done a handful of, I don't do a lot of them at all. Maybe
Mhm.
a handful of them.
Mhm.
And usually it's because one distinctly I remember is the parties eloped. They
Uh,
eloped and then they were like, oh, let's go
and
back
then
and do what we should have done, But they were
yeah.
both on board. They were both on
Okay.
board. They were both,
Okay.
excited to do it. So we did a
Mm,
post nup. But
okay.
that's basically what it is. It's doing a contractual agreement about how things are going to be divided in a
Mm,
divorce after you have already gotten married. But there is no incentive to
right.
do that unless the person is going to incentivize them. Now, this happens a lot too. It's almost like one of my athlete clients describe it as like a signing bonus. You know how in the NFL or the NBA you may
Yeah.
have a signing bonus, so they called it
Mhm.
a signing bonus. So it's like, it's the signing bonus, the
Mhm.
payout you get for signing it. So that could be the incentive. You can say, and that's
Yeah.
what I tell them. I'm like, look, there's no incentive for the other person to sign the post up because you're already married, unless you're
Mhm.
going to say, all right, look, I'll go ahead and give you 50,000 as a
Mhm.
signing bonus
Mhm.
for
Your
signing this
own money,
post.
you can keep it. Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
I'll give it to you right now,
Yeah.
to sign
Okay.
this postnuptial agreement. So maybe that would be a little bit of encouragement, but
Okay.
otherwise, there's no incentive to sign a postnup.
Okay. And see, Kandi didn't even get caught up in that. They even asked her, like, you gonna elope? She was like, after this prenup gets signed. Like she was about her business from day one. So that's why it's so confusing. And it all could just be the way this attorney drafted the document and it means nothing, right?
Right,
Because attorneys are
right,
the ones that draft these documents. We don't sit down with our clients and say, you like this sentence? What you think about this? What you think about this? I
right.
mean, sometimes you'll send a document for your client, but not this general complaint for divorce. I mean, yes, Kandi signed a verification that everything in
Mhm.
here is true, but she's not necessarily approving every statement. She's not the lawyer. She doesn't just get this divorce file. Let's get it started because it's boilerplate in a sense. But
Right,
so while we're having this discussion and we're nitpicking and we're seeing things and we're trying to guess, we could be 100% right just because, as you say, she's been doing it for 20 years, or this attorney just could have drafted it this way and it means nothing. So we really won't know until Todd files his answer. So just be sure to like, share, subscribe to this channel. We will be following this divorce the entire way. I'm very intrigued. I love Kandi. Like I love Kandi, everything that
oh,
she does,
yes.
business, all that stuff. We love Kandi. We
Mhm.
so so,
We
we
do.
so ATL. So
Mhm.
we love Kandi. So we all room for the home team. I started to make a post last week when the divorce Saturday morning. I woke up and I was about to post. Todd, you got 30 days to get up out of Atlanta. 30
We love
days.
Todd too, though,
I
and
know
here's
we
the
do,
thing,
we do, we
I
do.
have
That's what I came at. We
to say,
love them both.
right. It's like,
Mhm.
people feel like, when they were
Mhm.
together, we love
Mhm.
them both, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we all
Mhm.
knew Candy because she's the superstar, but we
Right.
love them both, and we love them both together for a reason. And like someone said online, they said, for some reason, when people get a divorce, the public feels like they have to choose. You
Mhm.
feel like you have to choose a side,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I don't want to choose a side.
Yeah.
I don't have to choose a side. I can love them both,
Yeah.
and I think it's, with the public choosing a side, I don't think it does any good for their mental space and their mental, because even Candy said it in her, I think, Amazon Live, that,
Yeah.
she said sometimes she'll be scrolling and she'll see things and she's like, what? And she'll want to,
You
respond and
want to
stuff.
comment because it's wrong, but
Yeah,
yeah.
she wants to comment
Mhm.
and say some things, but she just has to mentally just step away just
Yeah.
to protect her mental and emotional peace. And so,
Mhm.
even though we love Candy, remember,
Yeah.
y'all, we had love for Todd too.
We
You
did,
know,
we
so
did. I know. We can't let Mama Joyce and Bertha them to, it's gotta let it play out. We gotta let it play out because we did love everything they did together, the restaurants, the plays. They've had very big success together on Broadway. So you never know. And I think Ty is doing a new venture. I saw him, I guess he has a movie coming out or something, and he was setting up like a movie screening situation in
Oh,
Atlanta.
okay.
So yeah, he's gotten like
He
his
said
movie.
that was his next scheme that he set up. That's what he said.
Yeah, it's the schemes and that comment has just grown in so many
It
ways.
has.
Incorporate that and use it for the businesses. So I really do, love them as a couple. Love Kandi. We could wake up next week and they could be back together, right? But I just don't. Kandi just really seems like once she makes up her mind about something, that's what it is. So she's filed. So we're here. So we're just gonna wait till this plays out. Share with us again just how they can get in touch with you if they need to get a divorce, or no celebrities that need to get a divorce, or no Kandi come get a new lawyer.
Well, I wasn't ready for this. So let me see. On Instagram, I am at Attorney Farrey. So you see my last name on the screen. So that's my name on Instagram. I think that's my name on TikTok too, at Attorney Farrey. Also, my website, you can find, really, if you Google my name, you'll see everything that pops up about me. My law firm is Anene, Farrey and Associates. That's Anene, Farrey. You see my last name on the screen. And Associates, we are located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's myself, and I have 3 other teams of attorneys that work with my firm. We do divorce, custody, child support, prenuptial agreements. We handle domestic violence cases, modifications, all things family law, essentially. So that's how you can find me. For those of you that like to pick up the phone and call, my number is 678-948-8489. So you can find me by phone, social media. I think, Facebook. I always forget about Facebook. I feel like it's for the older people now, but we are on Facebook as well. So you can look up my firm name there also.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So we got some more questions, so we're not in it yet, but I just wanted to make sure we got that information out so people could know who was sharing this amazing information with us today. Thank you for being a part of the show. So Buddy 305 Love 9 sends a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, if situation changes, contracts are renegotiated at the point of the change. Shouldn't that rule fall on prenups as well because it's a contract? That's interesting. Does that work that way? Do they change during the marriage?
So sometimes what a prenuptial agreement will say is this prenup is enforceable and binding, and any verbal changes don't count, and no changes count, or like no new agreements will count unless the parties execute something in writing using the same format and process, like having notaries, being typed up, having 2 witnesses. Unless they execute it that way to change the prenup, then no, it won't work. But yeah, along the line, if people say, you know what, let's change this part of our prenup, and they're both on board, usually there is a clause in a prenup that says they can change it so long as the change is in writing. So that's a possibility.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't even
Mm,
think of that. I'm thinking just wait to the end and figure it out. But yeah, that's a good point to
That's a
kind of
good, yeah, good
keep it going.
question.
Especially if I win the lotto tomorrow, I get 250 million. We might need to revisit this prenup.
Right.
Or I may want to hold up accepting my winnings and go ahead and file for divorce and put that separation date before the date.
Right. Before
My
collect
lotto.
cash out.
Don't have sex before the lotto. You buy a ticket, like don't have sex so you can claim that y'all was separated prior to you winning the lotto, just in case. Just in case you're learning some tips. No, I'm just playing.
Right.
But yeah, we do wish them both the best. But yeah, y'all stay tuned because we will probably not. So the prenup, is it ever going to be filed? Like, do you think the prenup will ever be submitted to the
No.
court? Okay.
So it will be submitted to the court at some point
Not
if it's disputed, but they should not file it in public records, because remember, in a prenuptial agreement, in order for it to be enforceable, you have to disclose, your finances. You have to disclose your financial assets, or during that negotiation process, you have to disclose it. And the best way to disclose it is including all of your finances inside your prenuptial agreement. And that's something you don't want to.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong banner up. You're good. No, you're good.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's something that you don't want to put in public record. So it's rare. Now, maybe they may file certain clauses or provisions from the prenup. If there's a dispute about it, they may, copy and paste that into a motion that gets filed with the court. But 9 times out of 10, the prenuptial agreement is not filed in a public record, but it is provided to the judge's chambers outside of the public record. So they may hand deliver it to the judge, or they may provide it at court in person and hand it to the judge.
Okay. Well, let's hope somebody slip up, y'all. If somebody slip up and it gets into the clerk's office some kind of way, I'm gonna get a copy of it.
Or sometimes it's that if in the rare circumstance it has to be filed, usually a request to seal it happens as well. So
yeah, I know. And now, speaking of the request to seal, because some divorces are under seal the entire time. I think in Phaedra's case, I think that was some of the issue with why it was hard to find. Wasn't it sealed or something when it was under the fake names and stuff like that or whatever? So
right.
So could Kandi, now I didn't see that request in her petition, but could she ask for this to be sealed at some point? Could we get locked out of this divorce?
She could, if there is some sensitive information that starts being filed in a public record. So right now, as you mentioned, this is a very vanilla divorce petition. It doesn't mention much. It doesn't mention the children's names, no addresses. It doesn't disclose anything personal or confidential. So at this point, it's just I'm wanting a divorce like everyone else. So if there is something that comes out later that gets filed in a public record that can be harmful to their interest, then yes, she could file and say, I either want the document sealed that got filed, or I may want the entire divorce sealed. Now, it's hard to get the entire divorce sealed because, they say that believe it or not, the law says that third parties have a right to a person's public divorce. They have a right to know that somebody is being divorced. Creditors have a right to know that. The IRS has a right to know that. Potential suitors in the future. So if you're dating somebody, they have a right to know that you are actually divorced. So the public has a right to know that people are going through a divorce and that they are divorcing. And because of that, she would have to prove that her interest trumps the public's right to know what's going on in her divorce. So yeah, she can ask for it to be sealed at some point, but she has to prove to the court why she wants it sealed.
And I guess if you all know Drew Sidora and Ralph, they're another couple from Real Housewives of Atlanta who are going through divorce out in Gwinnett County here. And I believe Drew filed a motion to have it sealed because, like this is vanilla, right? However, Todd's answer could not be. He could answer and throw dirt into the answer. He could put things in the answer like I want a divorce and put explanations into the paragraphs. He could make it messy. And then, so that's what's happened in their divorce with Drew and Ralph. Like it's gotten messy. Ralph's on like a second attorney. Things have been filed. Allegations have been made that Drew's like hid businesses and all of this stuff. So now the dirt's all out. So I know she filed a motion to get it sealed, but the judge in that case denied it. So it's staying public record. So just because the request is made from Kandi, if that ever comes to seal it, doesn't mean that it will. So we can stay in the know. So hopefully we will stay in the know. And if we stay in the know, we'll let you stay in the know. Because I just really want to know how this plays out. I mean, this is like a hometown favorite, right? And then, like you said, we fell in love with a couple on Real Housewives of Atlanta. They met on the show, like literally when they were filming. Remember the show in Africa?
Right.
So it says, he met her there. He took notice of her during that trip at the same time.
Phaedra introduced them. She talks about how Phaedra introduced them.
Yeah. She's getting these readings done where they're telling her like your mate is, it was just like all
here or following you or something
like around. And he was there in production. They get introduced because he said, oh yeah, she's cute. I kind of want to meet her and talk to her. And then they end up dating for 2 years and they get married. It just seemed whirlwind, the wedding. Now you always have Mama Joyce, but it just seemed just, just so perfect the way it came together. Like they were going to just beat all the odds. It didn't matter. The money didn't matter. She made all this money, but she just embraced him, loved him, the family. Remember his mom coming on the show and
Yes.
his daughter. It seems like she really helped his relationship with his daughter, and bringing her into the family and all of that stuff. It's just a lot is breaking up with them divorcing. We won't get any more of these specials with the family not being combined. So it's gonna be kind of bittersweet.
And that's why it's shocking, because it's like the public feels like we grew with them. Like we knew them before the children,
like we knew y'all before y'all knew each other.
We feel like we've been a part of their story and a part of their journey. So it's almost like, man, we're breaking up. That's why I'm like, it's hard to, I know a lot of people are choosing sides, but it's hard to choose sides because it's like we were rooting for them when we were rooting for them,
Yeah.
So,
and I see Kia Elder 305 says, I don't see Kandi changing a thing. I know Don One is walking around fast and doing nothing. And now it's so funny you say that, because Media Takeout, which I haven't been on in like forever, I saw a blogger today on YouTube saying that they had posted an article and they were saying that it kind of gave Don One wrote it, but it was talking about Todd and blaming Todd. This is the way the article was written. So, she does have some characters around her that I'm sure will have advice. I mean, everybody has their say. That's what another thing that's hard when you go through divorce, right? It's not just you walking away from this person. It's everybody breaking up. The family's breaking up. Everybody got something to say. Everybody want to know what happened. Everybody want to play mediator. It's just, he had the Glam Squad was involved in their relationship on his show. That was the point of his show, right? Todd and the Glam Squad. As they're getting Kandi ready, he sit there and talk stuff or whatever on the show. It's just a lot is breaking up. And so that's why they say like divorce affects so many people. We affected. Did y'all think about us? But
really,
I can't wait to have her sit down and share, because she is an open book and she's gonna tell us everything. So before we roll out, because we have been on over 3 hours, can y'all believe that on a Saturday morning? I know I got to get her to her next event, so let me hurry up. Are there any questions before I get the text? Does anybody have any questions before we head out? Y'all, this has been amazing. Like everyone says, we need all the info. This has been a great show. I thank you all so much for tuning in. We have had an amazing time. As you all know, this is the second time Attorney Farrey has been on the show. This will not be the last. She's our resident expert on family law, handling celebrity cases. And so we will have her on as we follow this divorce. Okay. So before we leave, let me shout out to N.A. Allen for sending super chats throughout the show. Thank you so much, sis, for your support. And shout out to our stream sponsor, the Little Gaming Channel. Again, Moss, if you can put a link to his channel in the chat. Shout out to the Little Gaming Channel. Not sure if he's still around. No, he's out there in California. So he probably woke up at like 7 a.m. and seen Fit on, like, what's going on? Like, hello, it's me. All right, AC Farrey, shout out, $10 super chat. Great job, ladies. Thank you so much. And Buddy 305 Love 9 sends a super chat. Thank you all so much for the show. We had over 200 people in the chat. I mean, it's been up close to 200 for like the whole time. I cannot believe this. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I know it was like a lot of great information was shared. Thank you so much, Attorney Farrey. You answered a lot of questions because we didn't know, right? We always hear about these people. There was so much misinformation floating out. You cleared up a lot. I think everybody will be getting a prenup, whether y'all got some or not.
And it doesn't matter how much you have. People think they're like, oh, I don't have anything, I don't want a prenup. It doesn't matter. You still want to be able to protect the things you may have in the future. And you may want to protect your little old house and white picket fence that you come to the marriage with. It doesn't matter. You just get a prenup to save you money and to figure things out in the event something happens, just like insurance. You don't want to get in an accident, but just in case, you're protected.
You're protected. Yep. Just like that. Divide and love, because, you don't marry the same person you divorce. All right. So thank you so much, Attorney Farrey, for being here.
You're welcome.
I'll have you back again. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving holiday. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe the channel, as I will be live much more often, especially going into this new year. We got some new segments that we'll be bringing you, and we will be following this divorce from start to finish. Y'all know I'm nosy. You know, I got my channel the day I went down to the Young Thug YSL trial and peeked my head in. So look, I will be in the Fulton County Courthouse getting the tea. I went to New York back in October for the Diddy sentencing and was in the courtroom 6 rows behind him as he was sentenced. If you missed that, check that out on the channel. It was an amazing time. So that's the type of thing we're going to be doing over here coming up into 2026. So y'all make sure that you stay tuned, like, share, and subscribe. And remember, I'll see you in court.